So when we go out and we do open houses, right? And Diane's sharing, you know, that she felt a little scattered. She felt like she didn't have her systems in place. Do you want to come up here by me? That way I can not have to turn around if it's just the two of us. But, you know, we learned something, right? We learned that while we had a great open house class a week ago, right? There was a lot of things thrown at you that you probably all walked away from going, oh my goodness, I need to implement this and this and this and this and this. And in our typical fashion, we say, okay, I learned it. Now I'm just going to go do it all. And we don't take the time to set it up. Okay. So I am willing to guess that as a result of Diane's crazy 2 days of open houses, because I gave you 2 last week, right?
Yep.
Yep. And 2 different properties, right? Yep. So we learned, okay, what works and what doesn't work. Yep. So now you take a step back this week when today and tomorrow it's a little calmer after Ignite, and you go, okay, this is what I learned. So going forward, I want this to be my sign-in sheet. And so boom, you create it, you make a bunch of copies of it, and now you got a ready, able to go, right? What you want to develop is, we have, and I'm going to ask Jeff, because Jeff does an awful lot of open houses, but we literally have a rolling bag, much bigger than my laptop bag, but we have a rolling bag. It's a rolling foldable cart, and it has everything in it. So it has the little stand that we put the snacks and the drinks in. It actually has the water bottles and the little cans of Sprite already in there. It's already got the snacks. We don't do chocolate because chocolate melts. And so that's all ready to go now, right? Our sign-in sheets with a clipboard, already ready to go. Our pen holders, we already have that cup in there. So we've developed over time, we know what we want to use. So now, literally, I promise you this, if somebody said to me, Margaret, can you guys do an open house at 2 o'clock this afternoon? Other than the brochure piece, we could say yes.
Now, I will say, I do have what I call the monster bag. And the monster bag has to get a set of wheels on it because I just about killed myself hauling all my junk around this weekend.
Okay.
But it was the brochures, it was the flyers, it was getting them printed, it was making sure I had all the information. And I don't understand why I felt so scattered about those things. But that just sucked up way more time. It was creating the Facebook banner or the Facebook post.
Okay.
Templates are your friend.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So in Command, we have designs, right? And with designs, you find one that you like, then just build it as a template. And then all you have to do next time is drop the photos, copy the words. And here's the thing, copy the language that the listing agent put in the listing in the public remarks.
Yeah.
Right. Don't reinvent the wheel because they've already spent a lot of time and or money figuring out how to say it.
Yeah.
Right. So, and there's a lot of templates out there that work really well. We actually, now we don't do ours on a full sheet of paper anymore. We do ours and we can get 3 flyers out of 1 sheet of paper. We use a little bit heavier cardstock and it's a long sheet. So it's a longer piece of paper. So we don't have to spend as much money on flyers. That's fine. Can you mute yourself, Brandon? So from that perspective, right, it saves us a little bit of money.
Yeah, I did 2 up.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I did 2 up. And then also I have a car attachment to the back of my car that's got everything in it. It's got my extra waters. It's got my sign-in sheets. It's everything. It plugs into the back of my car, my hitch, and I just roll. And it's got everything in there. And I can load signs into it too. So it's mobile.
So he has a trailer.
Yeah. Well, it's not really a trailer, but yeah. It's just one of those boxes, those attachments to the back of your car.
Oh, now I get, I'm like, what is he pulling around? Okay.
It's just one.
I got it.
I love that, right? It's ready to go.
Well,
right?
here's my question, and maybe, and I definitely need to get an email out to Chris. Last week I was trying to mimic a flyer I'd seen, and it was a half sheet on letter. And I had a devil of a time trying to figure out how to get Command to do that and do it well. And I finally gave up. So maybe that's definitely something, because I do not want. So are you printing on letter, Margaret, or are you printing on legal when you do your 3?
To the best of my knowledge, we're printing on letter.
Okay.
It's a tall, skinny one. I don't have any with me, but
yeah,
because they're at the open house, we left them at the house.
I bet Canva is involved with that, not Command.
Probably, because that's what Stacy uses, right? Stacy's a big Canva user, but it doesn't matter what you use, right? The beauty of Command is the templates are already there, right? Like the background colors and all of that, they are a lot more plug and play, right? I happen to have a marketing person, right? So she likes to play in Canva, so I let her do it, right? All I'm saying is that build a template that speaks to you, that represents what you want to be at an open house, right? And dump it in. The other trick is you should never work an open house alone. So when you're working with somebody else, there's 2 of you, divide and conquer, right? So if Jeff and I were going to do an open house together, lucky him, he'd get to do the flyers, because that's not something I'm good at, right? But we would brand everything together, right? So he would have my picture and his picture on it, and we would have one flyer for the 2 of us. Okay, so when you get those assignments on open houses, or you find an open house on your own and you have a partner that you're going to work with, make sure that you guys are talking about this stuff. And I know it's hard. This goes to my team. Sometimes I don't get asked, does it, you have anybody for an open house until Friday? So that's why having those templates up front are helpful, because if I send, and this has happened to Jeff more than once, I have sent Jeff a text at 10 o'clock on Friday morning to get you do an open house on Saturday. And he always says, yes. And because he's ready to go. If I did that to Diane or to Mark or to Chris or Brandon or Becky or Sandy or Lisbeth, you guys would all go, I'll figure it out, and then go into panic, right? Because you wouldn't have your systems down, right? And here's the other thing I'm going to tell you about open house. Don't overthink it. If you don't have waters, you don't have waters. If you don't have snacks, you don't have snacks. It just means you don't have to worry about looking around the house for crumbs. Okay. If you don't have a flyer, you don't have a flyer, but you have a phone, right? And your phone gives you access to RE Colorado. Your phone gives you access to the KW app. Your phone gives you access to HomeSnap. What more do you need? You need some business cards, a sign-in sheet, and information about the house in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So keep it simple. Love that. Good conversation. What else from last week? Specifically around Ignite. So we talked about social media. We talked about open houses, and I don't remember what we talked about on Wednesday.
On Wednesday, it was social media, and Sally was with us, and I took away a ton of great information. I also asked her to do the class again down at Avenues, so that it could be more personal and one-on-one, and we could talk to her a little bit more, because she and I've kind of watched her over the week. She's got an incredible, I guess, Facebook presence, and it really helped, because most of my marketing, I feel like, is going to end up on Facebook.
Yep, it works. And it's not even really marketing. It's just about letting people know you, right? Mm-hmm. So Charles also teaches some pretty incredible social media stuff, because he built an entire business on it.
Yep.
So absolutely. So awesome. All right. So we did social media. What did we do on Thursday? All right. It was impressive.
To be honest, I had family in town, so I didn't do a lot this weekend.
No worries.
I don't know. I didn't take a lot away from Thursday.
All right. Let me see what it was.
Yeah, I'm pulling my charts out. Capture more leads. I felt talked a little bit about systems.
Let me flip through it because I didn't do it.
Did a deep dive on prospecting and marketing. We talked a little bit about agent referrals.
So it was more, what I'm hearing is it was probably more tactical or more high level than tactical. That be true?
I felt so. Anyone else?
Nothing wrong with that. Okay. All right. Well, today we are going to talk about what do you do when you get a lead? Right? What do you do when you get a lead? Just sit on them? Probably not. Let me get where I need to be. There it is. Okay, let's see if this shares correctly today. Okay, are you guys seeing just the slide, or are you seeing the speaker notes too?
Speaker notes too.
Why does it always do that? Okay. Because it's not supposed to do that. How about now?
Yep.
The way you want to see it?
Well, I think you have to pop into a slideshow somehow because it's
I already did that. I just did that.
Well, it's showing the colors. It's showing the template colors and all the side notes and all that kind of stuff. So
it is showing the side notes?
Not your instructor notes, but the notes that are associated with the slide.
Okay, let's do this. So let me put it in slideshow first. Okay. Nope. This is horrible. I really do know how to run this stuff.
And I know how to create a flyer, but you know, some days it's just not the day.
Okay. Okay, now what do you see?
The slide.
Just the slide?
No, we have speaker notes too.
Well, then you're just going to have to bear with it because I don't know how to fix it. I'll try one more thing. How about now?
It's fine. Let's go with it.
Hold on a minute. No, I'm mad. Screen sharing has stopped as the shared window got closed. Okay. I got multiple copies open, which is probably part of my problem. So let's do this. You know, it feels like a Monday. Does anybody else feel like today's a Monday?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we'll take this way. Then we'll go share the screen, and whatever happens, we're living with the rest of the day. Fingers crossed, here we go. Okay.
Yeah, that looks right.
There you go.
Woohoo!
Yay.
Gosh. So the reality is that I can't share it the way I normally do. So that's part of my problem. So, okay. So now we're going to start talking about lead follow-up, right? And when we talk about lead follow-up, what do you do with a lead when it comes in, right? Because the saying goes, the magic is in the follow-up, right? That is where the financials are in the follow-up, right? You guys have worked open houses or you go door knocking or whatever happens, you get leads. And if you don't do anything with those leads, then you got nothing, right? So we are going to switch to focusing on that. And the whole part about lead follow-up is that sometimes it can take a while, right? It can take sometimes, it might take 10 years before that person turns around, right? But it's about building that relationship. So we're going to spend some time talking about how to convert those leads to business and tools and systems that are already primarily built for you to execute on, as far as how you keep going, how you develop that relationship so that you are top in mind. So when we get to the end of today, we are going to be able to describe the benefits of establishing a system of lead follow-up. There's that word again, system, right? We're going to apply the 19 to connect. It's a touch campaign that we use with leads so that they become part of our everyday life and our everyday world, okay? And then we're going to explain the importance of cementing the relationship with leads, okay? So if we go to, let's see if I'm on the right page. Okay, yep, here we go. All right, so if you go to the lead follow-up page in your participant guide, for those of you that have it out, let's first identify, how do we define a lead? What is a lead? Anybody got any thoughts on how you define what a lead is? Okay, a lead is a person who has shown interest in the service you provide, and you have their contact information, although they have not yet engaged with you in a two-way conversation. Now, I would say people at an open house, I would call them a lead, even though while at the open house, you're having some two-way conversation. Some of them at a higher level, some of them at a lower level. Okay. The goal of lead follow-up is to follow up with that lead with the goal of entering into a two-way conversation. So does a lead follow-up only apply to a lead? Such a backwards question, right? Let's talk about that, right? Every person in your database, right? You've got your database, you've got your sphere of influence, right? You got the people that you've met. We've been, for those of you that are newer in the business, your coaches have been going, get your people in command, get your people in command, get your command to 250, get your command to 300, depending on which office you're in. We all have different numbers, right? But get people in command, right? Those are the people that you know, right? That's your sphere of influence. Those are your contacts, true contacts. A lead is someone that you don't really have a very high level of relationship with at this point in time. And the goal of the lead follow-up is to convert them from someone that you've maybe met once, or maybe they responded to a Facebook ad, to someone that knows you and you're top of mind with. Does that make sense? All right. You guys are quiet today. All right, so you saw this graph last week, right? This is the life of a lead. So when we look at this, at the very top of every one of those waves, that is when someone typically purchases a home. Okay, the day after they buy the house, they start moving down the wave, and they continue until they begin to think about buying a new house. And that's the bottom point of our wave. Okay. And then as they're starting to think about it, then they start moving up the next one. Okay. So they buy a house, they go down, they start thinking about it, they do it, they go down, they start thinking about it. And do you see that? Okay. How many of you have owned more than one home? Have bought and sold multiple homes? Okay. Do you recognize that cycle in yourself? Right? It's the same thing with cars, right? How many of you have gone out and bought more than one car in your life? Okay, let's use that one because more of you can relate to it. So cars, houses, I don't care which, right? If I go out and I buy my brand new car today, am I going to buy one tomorrow? Probably not, right? I'm going to enjoy that car and I'm going to drive it until it gets to a certain amount of miles or a certain amount of time behind the wheel. And then I'm going to start thinking about buying a new one. And then as I start thinking about it more and more, I start doing more research. I start Googling and starting checking pricings. And then the next thing you know, I'm moving up that side of that curve, and now I'm buying another car. The same thing happens with houses. The timings are just potentially different. NAR statistics show that typically most people move every 7 to 10 years. I would argue that's tighter than that based on the database I work with. I'm seeing anywhere from 5 to 7. But this is national averages, right? So your people might be different. So the key is if you meet someone who just bought a house 6 months ago, what's the likelihood, unless they're doing investment property, that they're going to buy a house in the next few months? They themselves, probably not, but they probably know people. Because here's the other thing, this book doesn't say this, but I will tell you this. Friends do things in trends. It's the old saying of keeping up with the Joneses, right? And I watch it happen, right? Sibling number 1 goes out and buys a new house. Within the next 2 years, all the other siblings have bought new houses too. And I've watched it before I became a realtor, but it's trends, right? Oh, so if we were all friends, right? Diane just goes and buys a new house and we go out to her neighborhood and it's a brand new construction and we just love that neighborhood. And we're like been in our house for a while and, you know, it's starting to get to the point where we got to take care of a lot of maintenance stuff in the near future. And we like hanging out with Diane. Do we think we might consider selling our house and moving up closer to Diane in her neighborhood? Right? So even though Diane might not be shopping, you guys all might be. Make sense? Okay. So if I gave, go ahead.
So this weekend at the open house, we had one buyer come through. It was one of mine. That was my turn. And it was a large extended family. And it came to find out it was a couple of siblings and then their older parents. One of the siblings was a realtor and they were looking for a house for the parents. Would that also apply for that? If you've got the whole family there looking at houses, that they might kind of have that, mass contagion group think, and would then be possible leads too?
Yeah.
So don't
if one of the siblings wasn't a realtor.
Yeah, that was the glitch.
Absolutely, okay. Right? Like on Saturday, we had a neighbor who was behind the house. So Mark worked the open house on Sunday at my listing. On Saturday, we had the neighbor come down and she was wanting to buy that house for herself as a downsize because her daughter wanted to buy their house and they all wanted to be in the same neighborhood. They wanted to be that close, right? Parents and siblings wanted to be that close to help each other or take care of each other. So absolutely, Mark, you never know what those big groups are going to do.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was a little bit spooked when she came right out and said, I'm an agent. So that was when I kind of backed off.
You didn't catch mom's name, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
They didn't interact at all. I was basically interacting with the siblings. Parents just kind of walked through the house and they didn't have anything to say.
Interesting.
So yeah, all the adult children did the talking.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Right. But yeah, they can absolutely, you can have multiple people. So if I gave you a lead close to the top of the wave, what would you perceive the quality of that lead to be?
Good.
I'm sorry, say that again? If
I handed you a lead close to the top of the wave.
Oh,
what quality of lead would you consider that to be?
I think it'd be a very strong lead.
Exactly, right? Because if they're nearing the top of the wave, that means they're probably getting ready. Those are your open house people, right? Those are the people that come walking through that open house that are thinking about buying a house. Or the neighbors, the nosy neighbors who are thinking about selling, even though they won't tell you, okay? So you would consider that a high quality lead, which means you'd probably get very aggressive with your marketing campaign to them, right? Yeah. What if I gave you a lead right after they purchased their house? What would you think of that one? What's the quality of one that just bought a house?
A long-term lead.
I love that, a long-term lead. I was waiting for someone to tell me it's a horrible lead and I don't want it. But you're absolutely right, right? That's a lead that's going to be, it's not right now. It's not hot today, but it could be in the future. And if you follow up with them with any kind of consistency and intensity, they could give you referrals, right? Because we know that even though people claim they're going to use the new agent, the same agent they used before, they don't. And I'm starting to see a trend where people don't even use the same buyer and seller agent if they do something right now. There's a new trend that they use one person to buy a house and a different person to sell a house, which I don't understand.
No, there's no logic to that. There's no logic to that.
I don't see any logic to it.
Does that?
Yeah, it doesn't seem rational.
I mean, I would think you would only do that if you're dissatisfied with the agent you had, or I don't know. I mean, there's no indication that people are just like, I don't know, perpetually dissatisfied or not happy with whatever particular agent they had, or think it's, you know, commissions are too much.
If it was past tense, I would get there, but let's do it this way. So I'm going to sell my house. So if I sell my house, I'm going to have Becky sign it, and I'm going to have Brandon be my buyer's agent all at the same time. Like I'm selling my house to move to a new one. So I'm going to have Becky sign it and Brandon help me with the new one. I think it makes it super complex, especially if you got to sell the one house to buy the other one, right? So it's just odd. I'm just seeing a trend in it. Okay, so think of leads that enter your database through your lead generation activities, right? Whether it's your open houses, whether it's your Facebook ads, whatever you're doing. Lead follow-up helps turn those leads from possible into probable, with the end goal becoming a profitable business. The 2021 National Association of Realtors profile of home buyers and sellers details the opportunity that lead follow-up can provide to your business. These stats will blow your mind. When selecting an agent to use, 73% of buyers only talk to one agent. And 82% of sellers only contacted one agent. So what does that data say to you, right?
They're going with convenience, the first one they find.
Exactly, right? So they're lazy, right? If the first agent says they can get the job done and they come in and they do a highly skilled, effective consultation, they're just going to do it. So my question is, what are you going to do in your business to ensure that you're the one agent they call instead of anyone else in your database? So what does that look like, right? If you aren't first or second in their mind, you're not going to get the business, right? I know in our office, we hear Charles talk a lot about mind share. Mind share, mind share, mind share, mind share, mind share. You want to take up their mind share, right? That's why we want you posting in Facebook. That's why we want you sending mailers. That's why we want you touching the people you know, so that when they're ready, who do they think of first? How many, let me ask you this, before you all became realtors, how many people did you know that had a real estate license?
Probably 5 or 6.
5 or 6? That's probably pretty true. How many for you, Liz? You didn't know any real estate agents? You're the exception to the rule. Okay. I probably knew 8. Okay. So think about that, right? Are you different than the people in your database? They probably know just as many realtors as you did. So we want to make sure that you are the one that they think of first. Okay. So thinking back to the day you learned about lead generation, What touches are the strongest when it comes to relationship building?
I don't think I understand the question.
So, okay, so let me ask you this. What kind of touches, if you are doing lead generation, and we talk about lead generation is about building a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of contacts, what kind of touches are going to be the strongest relationship builders?
Well, face-to-face communication would be, to me, the strongest.
Okay, face-to-face communication, yep.
And then either text or email would be next. Or no, phone. Phone would be best, voice.
Okay.
And then text or email. And then social media.
Okay. What's the worst type of lead generation? The lowest, the weakest relationship builder?
We've been trying to reach you about your car's warranty.
Nice, Brennan.
Spam likely. Yeah, exactly. I would say it's direct mail. I think direct mail is one of the weakest forms of relationship building, depending on what you send, but yet we're still going to tell you to do direct mail.
Yeah.
So Margaret, why is it so prolific?
Say what?
Why is direct mail so prolific in our society?
Well, it still works. I'm just, when the question is about what builds the strongest relationship.
Gotcha.
Right. So a piece of non-personalized mail received in the mailbox doesn't create a relationship. That's called marketing. Right now, you got to be specific. You got to be very strategic or tactical when you think about those direct mail pieces. Like we sent out this year something I don't normally do. So just as an example, we do a direct mail piece 14 times a year. So we use the land title. That's the title company I use, but any title company has these. And we send out a postcard every month to everyone in our database. If we met them at an open house, they're in our database. And if it's my best friend from high school, she's in my database too. Okay. My brother's in my database. Okay. And then we've got farms that we send them to. So every month we send a seasonal appropriate card, like fall maintenance tips, or the best Halloween spook houses, or the best place to see Christmas lights, or the best coffee shops. And then we layer on top of that, we do the Rockies schedules and we do the Broncos schedules. And I'm always looking for pieces that are going to get stuck on people's refrigerator, right? So the Rockies schedule, it's all summer long. It's 160 games. That's going to get stuck on their refrigerator. Broncos is going to get on their refrigerator for 3 months. This year, I added in the Avalanche and Nuggets on one postcard. Avalanche on one side, Nuggets on the other. When you win the Stanley Cup, people want to watch the Avalanche more. So we layered that on top of. So we're very strategic on those pieces that we want to have people want to keep. And the one that was the most successful was the day my daughter, 25 years old, walked into my house, and it was where all of the fall festivals are. Her friends are really into all the fall stuff. She literally took a picture of the front of it. So she knew where they all were. Score, Mom, that one was a good one. Okay. But that doesn't build a relationship because it's not a two-way, it's a one-way. Okay. So you're right, Diane. The strongest relationship builders are those face-to-face or voice-to-voice opportunities. And then you layer in with all of the other things. Okay. Email and text are weaker just because they're one way. And the reality is, especially with email, people hardly open their emails anymore. So there's that piece too. Let's skip the next. Okay. So how to lead follow-up. How do I do it? Right? Just like your intention to be strategic with your lead generation, right? We talked about earlier where, getting very strategic and systematic with your open houses, right? We want to be very strategic with our lead follow-up. So as an example, we loaded up a bunch of Facebook ads last night and we had a bunch of leads come in. And this morning, Stacy got a text, make sure you put those into the plans and make calls with them. And with Command, you can actually, you have triggers in Command that Chris will teach you. So if you do, get this, you guys, you do a Facebook ad, right? Online lead generation is speed to lead. The faster you respond, the better chance you have of getting their attention. You can set up a Facebook ad so that when someone clicks on it, it enters their information to get more information about whatever you're advertising. An email automatically goes out or a text message automatically goes out. Whether it's 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or whenever, they immediately get a response, even if we're not awake. Okay, that's speed to lead. Those are the kinds of systems you want to start building into your businesses, right? But being thoughtful about how you will follow up and leveraging the highest value touches that yield the greatest result helps you convert more leads. So, and I'm going to do open houses because one, that's my favorite way to lead generate. And second of all, a bunch of you did them this weekend. Okay, I'm getting feedback off of somebody. Can't figure out who it is. So you guys worked an open house this weekend. Did you not find that you had a different quality of people walking through your open houses? Yes.
Really?
I think you, well,
no.
I would think so. You had people who were like, we're ready to buy today.
Oh, okay.
Versus you had people saying, well, we're just starting to look, we're thinking next spring. You've got people who are saying, we got to move mom. She can't be in the big house anymore. The sooner the better. We want to be in by Christmas. To the neighbor who says, we just wanted to see what they did to the house and how their floor plan is different than ours. And that was the neighbor who I said, well, I can help them solve that problem. Let's just sell them this house and I'll sell theirs. Right? They can buy this one. So you're going to follow up with those people differently, right? We talked about last week at the open house one, right? If you have somebody who's like really hot and they like that house, aren't you calling them as you drive away from the open house? Exactly, right? Where if it's somebody who's, yeah, we're thinking next spring, well, then maybe you call them on Monday or Tuesday. Right? So having that defined plan is going to have a huge piece of it. Okay. So if you look at the page in your participant guide called Fortune is in the Follow-Up, right? It's going to talk about mind share. Okay. And mind share, when we talk about it, is gained through positioning yourself in front of your leads frequently with relevant and timely information. The goal is to open the door to two-way communication in addition to getting them to think about you anytime they think about real estate. Even your open house people, right? Even your leads from Facebook, even your friends from social media, whatever that is, we want them to think of you. So through Ignite, we have two systems. We have what's called the 19 to connect. And then we've got the 36 to convert. And you're going to hear different variations of those themes in your market centers. I probably am going to end up referencing a couple of them. And so stop me if it's totally obscure and you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. So let's focus on the leads first. So these are these recommended. Fortune is in the Follow-Up mind share. So if we met, let's do leads and let's do a lead that came off of a social media ad, either to Facebook or Instagram. Okay, you got this lead and it came into you. In the next 12 months with this lead, you would want to have 4 phone calls minimum. You would want to have 12 touches, either a monthly email, newsletter, market report, a video, depends on what it is. 2 touches, such as a direct promotional mail, like the magnets that we talked about with the sporting teams, a calendar, a printed market review, something a little higher than that monthly email. And then you might do some kind of annual event, client party, And these are people that you don't really know very well, and you're still inviting them to that. Okay. These are not your top of the line A-list people, right? So this kind of an annual event is going to be one that's a lower dollar one, right? The things like our office right now is putting together the breakfast with Santa. My team is putting together our annual holiday brunch. I'm not inviting all 1,000 people in my database. That kind of an event, that's high dollar. It's about $50 a person to put on. I'm probably going to include that to my VIPs. But what kind of an event would I do with leads? What if I did a movie in the park? At a movie in the park, right? Does it cost me more if I have 800 people there versus if I have 200 people there? Nope. The screen is the same amount of money to rent. The projector is the same amount of money to rent. Maybe it costs me a little bit more money in popcorn. Great. It's a very low cost client event that you can invite the people that you don't know very well, these leads to. Okay. Questions, thoughts, talk to me.
Okay. I would say I'm more an introvert and a very private person.
Okay.
And some of this feels very unnatural to me.
Okay.
Only because to me, I see it. If I was receiving all of this, I'd be like, whoa. So I'm trying to work through that little catch in my personality in order to be successful. But that's just me.
Okay.
Definitely the quarterly phone call, fine. I'm much more comfortable with newsletters and market reports. But as we just discussed, face-to-face or a phone is a stronger touch than any of these other, well, maybe not the annual touch, right? Not the annual event. So that's me.
Okay.
Becky? With Diane, I was just going to say, I'm kind of with Diane, and it's not because I'm an introvert, because I'm an extrovert, but I just don't want to bug people. You know, like I've got a contact that I've got from an open house, just one. I was just texting him, letting him know about Jody's deal on this house. Anyway, but you know, I just can't see bugging up because I'm such a don't bug me type person. You know, what I would rather do personally is go into their business. And maybe that's, you know, like I know where he works and I'd rather give them business and start that relationship that way where I'm saying, oh, you know, I love what you're doing here. You know what I mean? Just, I don't know. It doesn't make me feel comfortable either.
Okay. I love that. So let's talk through that. So first of all, when we're doing these 19 touches, it's over a 12-month period of time, right? So now this is somebody, so when I'm talking about a lead right here with this 19 touch, this isn't the person who walked into your open house that said, I want to buy a house in the next 2 weeks, right? I'm going to follow up with them more closely because they have a need. They don't have a realtor, and I am the best person to serve their needs, right? So one, I have value to them. I'm not just calling them and bugging. I'm not just calling them to just call them, right? If I found somebody who walks into an open house, we connect right at the open house. And you do know at open houses if you connect with somebody or not, right? If you vibed with them, right? And so I'm going to follow up with them because they have an immediate need and I can meet that need. I can help them. Right? I can provide value to them, right? So if we're providing value to people, is that bugging them or are we more like the car warranty people?
So I think that's the catch, right? Is breaking that mindset and understanding or placing yourself in a mind space that you are that you can provide rather than bug.
Right.
And I'm horribly weak on that at the moment.
Okay, so let's talk through this 19 to connect, right? So let's pretend this is somebody that we met somehow, right? But they don't have an immediate need. They're more of a longer term lead. Okay, well, let's just do that. So over the next 12 months, we're going to do a quarterly phone call. So we're going to throw them in our DTD2, right? And so if their last name starts with A and W, they're going to get a phone call this week. So my first call to them in my quarterly touch is probably just a follow-up from the weekend. If I met them at an open house in their longer term, it might be just a quick phone call, and it says nothing more than says, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. This is Margaret Gade. We met at the open house on Fairfax on Saturday. I just wanted to call to see if you had any other questions about the property or to see if there was anything else I could do for you today. Okay. And that would be my opening line if they pick up the phone or they don't. And that would be my voicemail. The only difference would be if it's a voicemail, I would say, if there's anything I can do for you, feel free to give me a call at 303-522-1276. Okay. If they pick up the phone, I'm hoping they would start a dialogue with me, and then I would just let the conversation flow. Phone call ends, I throw them into DTD2. I'm not talking to them again for another 90 days. And then I'm not talking to them for another 90 days and another 90 days. They probably don't even remember the phone call from 90 days prior. Okay. The 90-day follow-up phone call would be, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. This is Margaret Gade at Keller Williams. We met a few weeks ago at our open house on Fairfax. Just wanted to call and check to see if there was anything I could do to help with you guys as it pertains to anything related to real estate. If there's anything I can do for you, feel free to give me a call, 303-522-1276. I'm always ready and able to be a resource for you. Okay, that happens 4 times a year, right? Car warranty guys call me 7 times a day. Okay, the 12 touches. I love it, Diane. Newsletters, send them a newsletter once a month. Right? You design that monthly newsletter, right? And I know that for some of you from Mega Camp, that was a big thing, right? You took away the newsletters and it's like, that's something I can do. So build your template, because the key to this is that when you're 12 touching a newsletter, whether it's email or a snail mail or a combination of both, the key to this is you need to make it look the same. Right? You need to develop what your brand is going to be, because if one day I send the newsletter and I'm using a blue outline, and the next week I send a green one, and the next month I use purple, there's no consistency in it, right? So you want that template to look the same. And some of my favorite templates have information about the market, something cute and funny, something to make them laugh, something about me and my success, right? And it's just a simple little PDF, 8.5 by 11, that you could either print out or do in an HTML email. Wow, I just talked like I knew what I was talking about, right? But you want that template, right? And then you just have to find the content, right? And that content can be something as simple as, here's the top 10 houses for Christmas lights this year. Right? Or here's where Santa Claus is going to be, or here's the best Christmas parades, or whatever it is, right? Something that is relative to people. The other types of monthly emails you could do if you're not a newsletter person. Monthly neighborhood nurtures. Everybody wants to know what the houses are selling for in their neighborhood, yes? So we have an email campaign that's already set up. If you have their address, their home address, you can send that to them and it will go automatically once a month. You don't even have to touch it. But you're sending them information of value. Okay. And if they're an open house people and you don't exactly know their home address, maybe you give them the neighborhood that they came to the open house in and then the 3 neighborhoods around it. Or 4, depending on what's directly around it. Because there was a reason they came to your open house. If I'm shopping for a house, I like to live in Arvada. I'm not going to open houses in Parker. Okay, so that's an automated system. There are also automated email campaigns out there that is just something that Keller Williams designs for you. And it can be, here's your spring housekeeping tips. Here's your here's the maintenance tips for the month of September, or the maintenance tips for October, right? Great content for newsletters too. This month's monthly maintenance. So there's campaigns out there. Get with Chris and make sure that you're learning what those campaigns are and figure out how you can use those in your business so that you're not having to create it every month. So Diane, what we do with newsletters in our business is we do the monthly emails, and then once a quarter, we add a newsletter. So we do a second email drop. So, and again, it depends on where you found them and what your lead is. And we hit them even harder out of open houses. We do an email text campaign that's 8 touches in a week, because we want them to get to know us. Okay. Then the 2 touches, the direct mail, the magnet, the calendar, those are easy, right? You're just picking something and dropping it, right? You have land title, print out your Rocky schedules, and they mail them off, and then they get that direct mail piece. And then you invite them one time a year to your movie in the park or something that you're doing. Maybe you're doing a pumpkin patch thing at Anderson Farms, right? Whatever it is, it's low cost. The cost doesn't vary if you have 100 people or 1,000. Okay. So now I'm going to stop for a minute and I want to hear you guys now.
So you're saying these are long-term. These are the long-term lead actions.
Absolutely.
And that makes it,
yeah, it's 19 touches in a year, not 19 touches in a week.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yep. Now, again, if you've got that hot lead, Becky, you're probably going to want to reach out to them more. But again, you're reaching out and getting a connection with them so that you've got a service, right? They're buying a house. They came to your open house. They said they're buying a house. You are a realtor. They don't have one. You want to get to them as soon as possible because you're the perfect person for them. Right? For those kind of hot leads, this isn't an Ignite, but this is from another coach that I work with. His belief is, and he does this with expireds and open house follow-ups, he literally does 10 contact attempts in 3 days. He does a phone attempt, no answer. A couple hours later, he texts them, no answer. A couple hours later, he hits them with an email. The next day, he texts them, he emails them, he calls them. Next day, he emails, he calls, he texts, because he tries to do the calls at different times of the day, right? So if I had somebody hot from the open house, I might implement that strategy and then throw them into the 19 to connect. I wish I could see your faces better. You're also tiny on my screen.
So in order to do that, you have to, there's a little tiny bar between your content and the windows. And if you slide it, the little boxes.
Yep, they get bigger. Yep. I can also do it like this. Yep. What are your thoughts?
Well, I just want to go back to something that was said previously. I mean, I've since I left my corporate life, I've been trying to reconnect with people. Some people I haven't talked to in years, and I found that oddly enough, people don't think I have an agenda, and in some sense, I don't. Like I want to connect with people. One of the worst things about working the job I had was I had so many hours, so mentally and emotionally exhausting that by the time I was off work, I didn't want to talk to anyone. And so, it's been actually pleasantly surprising and quite pleasant that when I connect with people, I mean, some people, especially my ex-coworkers, like are much more happy to hear from me now than when I was working. I guess they're glad I'm not asking them to come to work on a Saturday or something like that.
Okay, there's all the telecom escapees laughing at that one. The high-tech people. Exactly, right? So I love that, right? So these are people that you knew from a past life, right? And we're going to go into the 36 to convert, which is where I would put them. But you're right, they want to hear from us, right? There are people that, I mean, just doing that 19 to connect, right? Where you just send them a monthly email and a newsletter and you call them 4 times a year, they would be ecstatic. And I'm going to tell you the best way to get out in front of people, like what Brandon was just describing, of people that you had relationships with before and you just want to reconnect with them. Send 5 people in your phone a text that says, "Hi, Becky, it's Margaret. It's been a really long time since we've seen each other. Do you want to have coffee next week or lunch?" Whatever you guys do, right? I always do lunch or breakfast because I like to eat, but you know what? Do you want to have coffee? Do you want to meet for breakfast? Do you want to meet for lunch? Do you want to meet for happy hour? Would love to see you. And that is a great way to reconnect. By the way, if it's somebody you really don't want to spend a lot of time with, invite them to breakfast, because people always have places to go for breakfast and it's usually less than an hour. Coffees, lunches, and happy hours can get really long. But it's a great way to get back in touch with people. And Gary had us do that from the stage one time at Family Reunion or Mega Camp. And it was so cool to hear 20,000 people's phones going off when he said, text 5 people. And most of us got 4 people back saying, yeah, let's do it. How's next Wednesday or Tuesday or whatever, right? People wanted to see us for coffee, lunch, happy hour, whatever. It really works. Maybe I should have you guys all do that right now. We'll save that for the 36 to convert. Okay. 19 to connect. Any other questions? Okay. Things to consider in your lead follow-up program. What are your strengths with working with people? Okay. If you're better at face-to-face than phones, then how do you alter those 4 phone calls for people that you don't have a strong relationship with, right? Remember, these are people that came out of some form of lead gen. You're just trying to get in front of them. What are your strengths with working with people, and how do you adapt the touches of the 19 Connect to be you, right? Right? Diane just shared she would much rather do a newsletter than to do a market report maybe, right? So then do that. Right? If that's your sweet spot to be able to create newsletters that have content of value to people, then do that and just be consistent with it. What are some reasons I might have for contacting the lead? And what are some touches to do before and after a phone call? Okay, so reasons that I might have contacting the lead. It's an open house. Or maybe they responded to my Facebook ad about my listings. Do you have any questions about the house? Are you seeing the homes that you're looking for? Can I create a search for you that would be of value, right? You're not bugging them. You're asking them how you can help them, right? And what could you send out in an email that would make you more comfortable making that phone call? Because my instincts are, some of you are like me, and you're all going to find this very hard to believe. But when I first started, the phone weighed 1,000 pounds. Okay. I didn't want to call people. So what did I do? I sent them something out in the mail. Maybe I sent them a market analysis of their neighborhood. Maybe I sent them a quick CMA that said, here's all the houses that are for sale in your neighborhood. Maybe I sent them information on, if I was working with potential sellers, 64 ways to sell your house, and I sent them that piece of paper in their mail or by email. Okay, so now I sent them that piece of paper. So I just mailed them. I met them at an open house. I mailed them 64 things to get your house sold because they were a possible seller. 3 days after I mailed it, I called them. Hi, this is Margaret. We met at the open house a couple of weeks ago. I dropped in the mail to you that 64 steps, things to do to get to your house sold. Did you receive it? Now I have a purpose to call them. For those of you that are not comfortable with just picking up the phone and calling, send something in advance that gives you a reason to call and follow up. Make sense? I sent you a letter announcing I'm a new realtor. Hi, did you get it? I sent you an invitation to our office's fall festival in Old Town. Did you get it? Yes, no, maybe. A little bit better? Can't tell. Okay. How am I using conversations to let the person know I'm in real estate, how to contact me, and how to refer business to me? Basically, are we letting people know that we're in real estate, and how are we doing that? Now, your newsletters and your emails should absolutely have a real estate related focus. Right now, if I was writing a newsletter, I would get a guest somebody to write an article about 2-1 buy downs. Right? Use your lenders, use your inspectors to provide you content to put into your newsletters. Right? Have your inspector write an article about the top 3 things to keep your house safe for winter. Get the furnace checked, right? All that stuff. Okay. When is it best for me and my business to time block for lead follow-up? So you can do it many ways. I'm typically not an 8 a.m. kind of girl. This morning I got out of bed at 8:05 and I was still here before 9. Whew. Okay, I did oversleep this morning, full disclosure, right? Disclosure. But when is it for you? Right? Matt Harper, who's up here in this office, he does his calls in the afternoon. He lets the mornings be his admin-y kind of time, email time. And the afternoons is when he's on fire for calling. That's how he works. A lot of people get the calls done between 9 and 12 and just get them done. If it's follow-ups, Cody Gibson teaches have a dedicated day. So I think I've talked about this in one of my prior sessions, right? Wednesday is follow-up Wednesday. So every Wednesday, I'm following up with people. I met you at an open house a month ago. I met you at an open house 2 weeks ago. I met you at open house 7 years ago, whatever it is, right? But I follow up with people. How can I help you? What do you need? I'll check back in a couple of weeks. A lot of this timing, you have to determine based on your conversations with the lead. If they say we're not buying a house for 2 years, then maybe I'm only following up every 90 days, every 120 days. If they're buying a house next spring, I'm calling them now saying, what are we doing to get you ready? I think we need to talk to a lender because of this, and we need to do this, right? So some of this timing is depending on where the lead is in the cycles. Okay. So when does it make sense for you to time block it and then do it? How much time should it take to reach out to a lead? What will I do to hold myself accountable? And what do I need to do to make sure this happens? How are you guys doing with your accountability partners and your script practice partners? Are you meeting with them? Yes? No? Some of you, yes? Okay. Right? So how are you holding yourself accountable? Right? I have had agents who literally text me their calendar every week. And then I follow, that's their accountability because they have to send it back to me to show me that they did it. Right? If you got kids, tell them what you're going to do. Right? I'm going to go do this. And when this all happens, then this is going to be the result for you. And I guarantee you the kids will be all over it, right? Just tell your kids, if you're going to close 20 properties in a year, you're going to take them to Disneyland. You're going to get asked every day, Mommy or Daddy, did you sell a house today? Because we need to go to Disneyland. Right? Kids are the ultimate accountability partners, right? Our significant others, your coaches, right? All of us can help you with that. You just need to tell us what you need and what we're holding you accountable to. Okay. What are some other things that you would take into consideration about lead follow-up?
I think I need to be more consistent, and I like your idea of it's just slotting the time. This is my time. And doing it.
How many of you went to middle school or high school? I hope everybody says yes, right? So when you got to school, how did you know where to go for your first class?
Oh, there was that really nice little schedule they gave you, and that you
There was a little schedule you gave you, right? So on
Yep.
Mondays, you went to math class for your first class, not PE. Okay. Then, but during the day, you didn't just do math all the day. So then what happened?
You went to the next class.
But how did you know when to do that?
The little schedule.
But you don't have the schedule when the teacher's talking. So what happens in the school building to tell people when it's time to switch classes?
Oh,
The bell.
The bell. Your calendars, your electronic calendars, your digital calendars, your paper calendars have bells in them, right? Use the bell to tell you to move to the next activity. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. Okay. All right. So this is your design for your touch plan, right? So I want you to think about this. And here's some other ways to do some of these 12 email newsletter touches that are a little bit different than what we've been talking about, right? So we're still going to do the 4 phone calls, right? Offer something of value on a quarterly basis. Then on our 12 email newsletter market report video, I mean, if you happen to know their birthday, send them a birthday card, right? So you could do 1 birthday card, you could do 4 market reports, you could do 4 informative videos, you could do 2 informative emails, you could do a neighborhood newsletter. You can do whatever you want to do. Okay. Then you got your 2 promotional direct mails, and then you have your event, right? I love this one. Organize a neighborhood park cleanup. If you're farming a neighborhood, like this would be a great thing to put into your farm 19 touch, right? So you might have different 19 touch campaigns depending on what you're doing, right? If you're farming your neighborhood, okay? So we'll use Applewood because that's one that I have farmed for years, right? If I've got a 19 touch plan for Applewood, I'm going to put more neighborhood specific things, and my event is going to be a neighborhood park cleanup, right? If I'm doing a 19 touch as a follow-up to open houses, that may be something different. By the way, a pretty inexpensive event, if it's I want to keep my costs low and I don't care how many people show up, is a shredding event. Arrange for a shredding truck to be in a certain place and have people come drop off their stuff. The shredding truck is going to cost you the same whether you have 10 people or 1,000. Right? But I love the neighborhood park cleanup, neighborhood, you know, walk the streets, right? And you go around and you give everybody the garbage bags, right? I don't know what it looks like. So what are some ideas that you would have that aren't on here?
Yeah, that's where I'm struggling. I mean, I feel like I'm so new. If somebody gives me a pattern, well, okay, hang on a second. Let's go back to the models in the system. The whole concept is of the model, you implement the model. And once you get the model down consistently, then you modify the model. And I'm kind of right there.
Okay, so here's your model.
Yeah, give me a pattern and I can follow it.
Yep. So here's your pattern.
Yep.
4 calls, 12 touches, 2 touches, 1 touch, right?
Yeah.
So we created the pattern, right? Let's do a quilt. Okay. So if we do a quilt, okay, you got different fabrics, right?
Yep.
Okay. So in that, so the 4 phone calls is easy, right? 4 texts, 4 conversations, right? You got that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you've got the 12 email newsletters, right? Think of it as putting together a quilt, Diane. Which fabric am I going to use where on the quilt?
Yeah.
right? So you have to think about that before you start sewing the pieces together. True?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's an example, right? So here's a 19 touch plan. If this is your farm, you might not know people's birthdays. So maybe birthday card, you have to take that one off. And maybe you replace it with 2 neighborhood newsletters.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't know enough of the people to do 4 videos. So maybe you go, okay, I'll do 4 emails and I'll add 2 more newsletters, right? Like this is the system. You just have to customize it based on your strengths. And it's totally okay if you went and said to me, those 12 email newsletter market report videos is going to be 12 newsletters.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And maybe this is what I'm missing, is that I haven't taken the time to sit down. I mean, to sit down and I'm looking for a word. To organize it so that I know which one I'm doing and which one I'm missing and which one I need to work on next.
Mm-hmm. So if we did this, how many of you guys farm neighborhoods? Anybody farm in neighborhoods? Do you know what I mean by farming neighborhoods?
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't
Okay.
yet, but I haven't yet, but I'm planning to.
Okay, so you're planning to. So majority rules in my classes. So let's pretend we're going to do this right now. I'm going to totally deviate from the content of this because I feel like this is huge. We're going to build a 19 touch contact plan for your neighborhood. And your neighborhood could be the 5 neighbors that live across the street from you, or it can be the 350 or 400 homes that are living in your subdivision, or anything in between. You get to decide what that looks like. My advice is less is more to start. Okay, so let's do it. So we have 4 calls, texts, conversations. I'm going to switch to this tool. Hold on a minute. Okay. Are you guys seeing are you seeing the PowerPoint or Excel?
PowerPoint.
Oh, never mind then. Okay, so take out a blank sheet of paper. I wonder about that stuff that actually writes. I usually like to use green for money, but that's okay. Okay, so this is going to be our 19 touch plan, right? You see, you guys might not still be able to see this. Okay, so our 19 touch plan. And this is going to be for a neighborhood farm. So first of all, in a neighborhood farm, you may not have people's email addresses, right? You may only have mailing addresses. We have access to get some of that information through the Cole directory. And the Cole directory, we can pull that out of the coaching team. So contact Stacy and tell her I would like a Cole list for, and then give her the geographics, right? 20th on the north, 26th on the south or north, Alkire on the east, and Dudley on the west, right? Tell her the geographic boundaries that you want. She will pull a list of all of the names of the people who are associated with that address and give you their phone numbers and their emails and their cell phones, and if it's on the do not call list.
So I don't know, Stacy, is that different for Foothills?
So because you're in my Ignite class, I don't know if that Jody has the Cole directory, but because you're sitting here, I will let Stacy pull it for you guys as well.
Okay, and how do I get a hold of Stacy then?
It's Stacy at stacytimmerman.com. And just let her know that you were in my Ignite class and I offered it. Because otherwise she'll go, who's this?
I didn't get that. Stacy.
Yeah, there's only 2 of you there. Okay, so that might be a way. You can also reach out to your title company. They can get you lists of the names of the people that live in your particular neighborhood. Okay, so we're going to assume we don't have email addresses. Okay. Now I'm going to really push some of you out of your comfort zone, and that's okay. So we're going to start with 4 phone calls. And you can get those phone numbers out of the call directory, right? At least the ones that are in, it'll tell you if it's on the do not call or not. Please don't call them if they're on that list. Now, one of the other things you can do if you don't have phone numbers is you could go door knocking. And in your door knocking, you could take items of value. So here's one of my favorite ones for this time of year. It's Margaret's reverse trick-or-treating. You know, when you're a little kid on Halloween, you go knock on the door and you go trick-or-treat and they give you candy. Well, in this case, we're going before Halloween and we're knocking on the door and we're giving them candy. So I would go get these little itty bitty treat bags. Make sure they're not scary. Don't put ghosts and witches on them. Make them cute little pumpkins or fall leaves, right? Because some people do get offended. You never want to offend anybody, so keep it safe. And I would put 2 or 3 pieces of little candy in there. And then I would put a flyer that would have the market stats for the farm in there and my business card. So I would go knock on their door, knock, knock, knock. Hi, my name's Margaret Gade. I'm with Keller Williams. I'm your local realtor. And I just wanted to say, trick or treat, I brought you a treat today, or I brought you a sweet treat, right? And then I would say it included in there some basic information about what's been currently happening in the real estate market here in Applewood. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them for you. And some people would go, wow, this is pretty cool. People still talk about my taking them candy for Halloween. Okay, so you could door knock with one of these items of value. Okay, because you don't always have their phone numbers or their emails. And when you get in front of them on the door, that's when you can see if you can get the conversation going so that you can get that information. So if I'm standing at the door, I could say something like, this market information, I actually send that out once a month. Would that be of value to you if I sent that to you once a month? Most of the times, if you use the words, would it be of value to you? People are going to say yes. Great. Can I get your email address? So I got my little clipboard and I write them down. Joe Smith, jsmith0456@gmail.com. That's great, Joe. What's your phone number? In case I get a bounce on the email, I want to call you back and see how I typed it wrong. Can I get your phone number, right? Blame technology. If the email bounces, how can I reach you? Okay, those are some questions you can ask or words you can use when you're in front of people to get missing information. How many of you have ever called into a customer service line and the first question they say is, in the event we get disconnected, what phone number can I call you at? That's their way of gathering your information. Okay. With me so far? Okay. So then 12 times a year, I'm going to email something. Okay. But we said we were going to break this down tighter, right? We were actually going to pick the fabric. All right. So I need 12 either email or direct mail touches, depending on what I'm working with. If I'm working with a farm that I don't have a lot of email addresses for, this is going to become direct mail. If it's people that I have a lot of email addresses for, I'm going to email it to the people I have email for, and I'm going to direct mail it to the people that I don't. Does that make sense? Okay. So what do we want to send? Maybe we want to send 4 quarterly newsletters. Right? And if it's a neighborhood specific one, it's what's happening. Maybe the name of it is What's Happening in the Neighborhood Name. Right? So if you live in the neighborhood, is there a neighborhood garage sale coming up? Maybe you're sponsoring it. Right? What are the trick or treat hours? When is the turkey trot in your neighborhood? What's happening in your neighborhood? What's happening in the name of your subdivision? And then this newsletter has a template, right? That has what's happening in your neighborhood. And up here, we just have a fun message from you. And then down here, we might have the market stats. Down here, we might have a tips maybe about the fall or spring, getting your house ready. Or maybe you have your lender write an article about what's happening in lending and talking about the interest rates. Remember, you don't have to build all the content. So maybe you have a guest writer that particular quarter. Or maybe you have a guest writer every quarter, because if you're only doing it 4 times a year, you could have a lender, a home inspector, a landscaper, like how to take care of my plants. Like, I don't know, have fun with it, right? Maybe up here, you have a monthly funny. Maybe you have a cartoon. Up here, I don't know what you have, right? But it looks the same every month, every quarter. So we're going to do a quarterly newsletter, and I'm either going to email it, or I'm going to drop it off, or I'm going to mail it. Okay. And what else am I going to do? So I got to do something else. So 4 times a year, mine's going to be built on 444. Okay. So once a quarter, I'm going to do the newsletter. Then there's other times I'm going to just send out market stats. Okay. That can look like a whole lot of different ways you can put that together. You can use the data information out of command. I used to just pull it out of RE Colorado and take it, turn it into a JPEG and print it. What else could we do? What could be our other quarter? Maybe I'm going to do a home tips, right? Or maybe by the way, these market stats, your title companies, Land Title, Andrea sends out once a month the market stats for the month. You could print them. You could post them on your social media. You can talk about them in your newsletters. But if you send out the market stats and you actually got the graphics from Land Title, you don't even have to engineer it. So that's what this market stats is going to be. I'm going to do this through my title company. By the way, she sends it to you for free. The only way she charges you for it is if you have them printed and mail it for you. Okay, so I'm going to get market stats from Land Title, and I'm going to send those out either through direct mail or email with the graphics that they send out. You guys ever seen those infographics that I'm talking about? Yes? Okay.
All right. Yes.
Okay. All right. And then the fourth one is maybe I'm going to just send the postcard of the month, not the vegetables or the fruit basket of the month, but the postcard of the month from my title company. Because then I don't have to create the content. Because my instincts are, you're like me. I don't know how to come up with content. Right? So if you're not a content person, leverage that. Remember, leads, listings, leverage. Leverage the content by going to the title companies. Go to your lenders, right? If you're not following your lender on social media, if you're not following Andrea Kwame and your title people on social, they post this stuff all the time. DMAR has lots of content that you can use, right? Leverage that so you're not having to think about it. So is this helping? Are we building the right pattern to build our quilt? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I think really and truly, this is exactly what I need to like bunker down and put it all together.
Yep. Well, now you can, yeah, you've already got the recipe, right?
Yep.
All right. So then I want to do 2 only direct mail pieces. And I want you to think about those direct mail pieces as something that's going to have good refrigerator time. Right? The cheapest are the sports cards. So you might send the Rockies cards in the spring, and you might send, what's that other team that's trying to play football? The Broncos schedule in the fall. Okay. None of my teams are doing well this year, so it could have been any of them, right? Annual calendars are a little more expensive because they're bigger and they're heavier to do. And again, guess what? You can get these through your local title company. You can even have the title company not only print the doggone postcards, but they'll mail them too. Okay. And then we need to do one event. What event do we want to do? Give me one. Come on, you guys.
Electronic recycling.
Oh, not just, so we're going to do an, of course we are because of your background. So we're going to do an electronic recycling event for next year. Okay. Okay, so now we just built the recipe. By the way, other ideas for the electronic recycling, you could sponsor a neighborhood garage sale. Those are super inexpensive to do. You could do one for a couple $100 the first year because you got to buy signs. Okay. You could do a neighborhood garage sale. You could do a neighborhood shredding event. You could do a neighborhood cleanup event. You could do a movie in the park that's in the neighborhood. Okay. So now what I want you to do is our next step to this is, when are we going to do it? Okay. So the 4 phone calls and door knocking, if you've got a pretty big neighborhood or farm, you might actually be making those phone calls weekly or door knocking weekly, but you're breaking the neighborhood up in sections. Okay. So if I've got to cover my entire neighborhood in a quarter, okay. So let's say I have 400 homes. Oh, that's too hard on my math. Let's pretend we have 300 homes in our neighborhood. How many homes a month do I need to hit? 100. 300 divided by 3 would be 100 homes a month. Okay. And so that means if I take 100 homes a month and I have 4 weeks in a month, how many do I have to hit a week? 25. Okay. So now you take your neighborhood and you block it. So if I have a map of my neighborhood and I say, I'm going to go this way and this way, right? So this one I'm going to do in January. This one's going to be February, and this is going to be March, and this is going to be April. This is going to be May. It's going to be June. Okay. Got me? All right. So which streets? Take a map of your neighborhood and literally draw these lines. And then you say, okay, well, my first week, I'm going to hit these houses. And then the second one, I'm going to hit these, right? Okay. So week 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's 25, 25, right? And then you just repeat it every quarter. So you either go knock 25 houses a week, or you call those same 25 houses a week. Now, did that just sound like a lot?
Yes.
Sounds doable.
It
Totally
sounds doable, but like that 1,000-pound phone, right?
Yeah.
So
you're not a door knocker, or you don't know because you haven't tried.
I'm not a door knocker.
Did you ever sell Girl Scout cookies?
Say?
Did you ever sell Girl Scout cookies?
Nope.
Oh, former Girl Scouts have no fear of knocking on doors, because when we used to sell cookies, we would go knock on doors. Okay, so then maybe you're calling them, Diane. But then you got to figure out how you get good phone numbers for all the people in your neighborhood. And maybe this isn't the plan that you want. Maybe you don't need to do a neighborhood plan, but you have to have some way of getting face-to-face with them to have that call text conversation. And you have one of two ways of doing it. You either pick up the phone or you go knock on their door. And I'm going to tell you something. Do you know how long it takes to door knock 25 houses?
Well, if you, I figure about 5 minutes per house. That's kind of what I would ballpark.
I can door knock 100 doors, knock 100 doors in 4 hours. So the average is, depending on your neighborhood, right? If I'm up in the foothills, this changes, right? If I live in a condominium or an apartment complex, it's going to go faster because the doors are really close together. But on average, in a traditional subdivision, you can door knock on average 25 doors in an hour. Now, you're not going to have 25 conversations because not everyone's going to answer the door. Not everyone's going to be home. But you can knock 25 doors out in about an hour. And for those
I get
people
sucked
that,
into long.
Go ahead, Jeff. What?
Sorry, I get sucked into long conversations. So that's, but it's good though. I build rapport, but I get sucked in long conversations.
Which is great because you're building longer relationships the longer they keep you at the door. So maybe,
Totally agree.
Right? So if you got people that are home, right? And I used to door knock Applewood, and most of those people were a lot older than me, which means they're home all the time and they're lonely. And so they want to talk. But I loved it because I built the relationship stronger and allowed me to get their phone numbers and their emails and be more effective. Right? So it's an average, right? So maybe 25 doors. 25 doors in a week takes you 2 hours. If you're getting good, long quality conversations, it's worth it. But that's not very much time in a week. Now, what do I say when I knock on the door? What do I say when they open the door? This is where you want to have that item of value with you, right? So if I'm door knocking, I might take with me my quarterly newsletter, right? Because if it's the month of the quarterly newsletter, maybe in January, those houses that I'm knocking, I'm leaving the newsletter at their door instead of mailing it or emailing it. But if you don't have, and if you can cold call them, you can call them. I just think it's faster to go out and walk. Right? And people are more likely to open the door than they are to pick up a phone of somebody they don't know. Okay. So did this help you guys start to think about a plan? I want to hear from somebody else, one of the Taylors. Sandy.
Yes, it just makes us want to jump right in.
Yes. And guess when we get to do that? At 1 o'clock today. Right? Start laying out your plan. Right? On your email newsletters, right? Okay, which months are you going to do them, right? So we've got 4 quarterly newsletters, 4 market stats, and 4 postcards of the month. So what do I have to do this afternoon to get this ready to go starting in November? What do I have to do to get it started to go next week? Right? So what's my plan for 2023, right? This is kind of like business planning clinic, right? So we got a plan, we got our plan for our phone calls, door knocking. We got it all laid out. We built our map and we time blocked in our calendar that we're going to go door knocking every Wednesday afternoon from 1 to 3. Maybe you're going to go every Saturday from 10 to 12. Your calendar. But when are you going to do it? Because if it's in your calendar, it becomes a system. If it's not in your calendar, it's just an idea that gets dusty on your shelves. Okay. So which months are you going to do the quarterly newsletter? Okay. I'm going to do it the first month of every quarter. Okay, so first month of every quarter, I'm going to do a newsletter. What's my template? What do I want to tell people in that newsletter? And what is that going to look like? So maybe tomorrow you spend an hour and you work on your template of what your newsletter is going to look like. Okay. The second month, go ahead. Did I have a question? Okay. Market stats, I can get those from the title company, and the postcard of the month I can get from the title company. Maybe I need to meet with my local title rep. For my office, it's Andrea Kwame at Land Title, who's most of us use, right? Maybe I need to schedule a meeting next week to meet with Andrea to look at what their programs look like and what their market stats look like. How can I get the market stats, Andrea, with, you know, just email to me so I can use them on social, I can use them in my newsletters. How can I get that? What would it look like to have you guys direct mail it out to 100 homes a month, right? Start asking questions, understand how your title company can help you. Okay, but that meeting with Andrea next week that you schedule later this afternoon will help you cover 8 out of the 12 touches if you use this pattern. You might decide to go a different path, and that's okay too. And then your direct mail, your promotional. I don't know. Rockies and Broncos are popular. The trick to that is you got to be the first one to get them out. Maybe you have a good connection with your school. What Amanda and Nikki do is instead of the Broncos, they do the local elementary school calendar. Right? Where they got all the events that are happening at the school for the year on that school calendar. Maybe that's what you do. And then your event, you chose electronic recycling. When are you going to do it? What day? Pick a day in your calendar right now. Is it in April? Is it in May? Don't try and do it in November. It's too quick. Or maybe your first step is to call around to companies that do electronic recycling and find out what dates they have available. Because I learned this lesson the hard way with my shredding event last year. We started calling shred trucks in February and they were all booked. And now you've spent the rest of this week building out your plan. You can start, bless you, you can start implementing it next week. All right. Whew. Well, we kind of did that. Then take your calendars. What days are you going door knocking? What days are you what day of the quarter? If you're doing the quarterly newsletter, you're going to send it the first month of every quarter. You're going to have a newsletter in January. Well, are you going to send it the middle of January? Or are you going to send it the end of January? Or are you going to send it the 1st of January? And if you're going to send it the middle of January, then probably 2 weeks in advance, what content are you going to put in there? Are you keeping a folder either digitally or printed of different content ideas that you find? Right? So start looking now for where can I find content? DMAR, Your First Home, that new book that Gary and Jay just released. Oh my goodness, the amount of content that you can get out of Your First Home is over the top. So DMAR, Your First Home, title companies, start following content creators on social media, right? Follow agents that you respect on their social media and look and see what kind of content they're putting out. They might not be putting any out, and that's okay. But start thinking about fall ideas. Reach out to, maybe you want a lender to write a paragraph for you every quarter to talk about 2-1 buy downs or rates or whatever it is. The market of the moment and financing right now, that's a hot topic. Because every buyer says, oh, I got to wait because interest rates have priced me out of the market. Well, wait a minute. Are you aware of all the different programs that are out there to make it more affordable? Okay. You don't have to be the expert on those programs. Go find your expert and let them write about it. Maybe you have your sewer scout guy write an article about how to maintain your sewer lines. I never knew that was a thing till I became a realtor. If I didn't know it, maybe other people didn't know it. What's the big something of a month, right? October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, right? If you were dropping that email in October, what kind of a tribute could you put into that? Okay, those are my brainstorms. Have I fired up anybody else's brains?
Of course you have.
Okay, so what are some of your ideas?
My first idea is I need some quiet time to put my plan together because I have a lot of ideas and they are all scattered. So I've got to sit down. I've got to take these worksheets and put the items in there and align them and start scheduling when and go back to my calendar and learn how to time block.
Yep.
That's my idea.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about what are some other ideas that you could put into your newsletters? What are some other ideas that you could put into content?
Sorry. That was embarrassing.
Definitely events coming up within your community is what I'm gonna also put in mind.
Yeah, like Applewood does a turkey trot. They do a run every third Thanksgiving morning. Right? Would that be important to put in an Applewood newsletter if you farmed Applewood? Yes.
Yeah.
Love that. But maybe you have food trucks in your neighborhood. That's another good one, by the way, you guys. You want to create an event. This was a wild and crazy idea I had 2 years ago in a one-on-one with somebody, and it's kind of taken off. So let me give you this one. You have a food truck. So you arrange for a food truck to come to your neighborhood. Okay. And usually you want to park it like in a park or somewhere where, you know, it's not going to block traffic. Okay. Maybe you have a rec center, like in Candelas, we got a rec center, so they park them up there. So you arrange for a food truck and then you advertise the food truck, right? So let's say that you were going to do food trucks. Let's just pretend you were going to do food trucks in your neighborhood next June, July, and August. Sounds good because the weather should be pretty good. You don't have to fight with snow. So in your monthly newsletter or your quarterly newsletter, right, that goes out in the 1st of June, you announce, hey, we're going to have, and you might tease it earlier in the year, hey, we're going to do food trucks in the neighborhood on the 3rd Wednesday of every month in June, July, and August. And June's going to be the taco guy, and July is going to be, I don't know what, and you find these 3 food trucks. Here's the beauty of food trucks, you guys. Most of them you don't pay for. Many of them will have a minimum that'll say, well, we need to have at least a minimum of X amount of sales. Okay. I have worked with 2 different teams that have run food trucks 12 months a year for 2 years now. Corey Holtman would tell you she's only had to cover the minimum 1 time in 24 months. And it cost her $250. But ask her about how many sales she got in her neighborhood as a result of having those food trucks out there. 3 over $800,000 each. So she didn't mind paying that $250 deductible.
So did she just hand out her cards, or how do you do the follow-up?
Well, so what she did with the advertising is that she sent a monthly postcard, and on the monthly postcard, it would say, remember the food truck this month is the 5280 macaroni and cheese or whatever it is, right? Or the burger bus. And we'll be at this park on this day from this time. And sometimes she'd put a QR code on, which would take them directly to their menu of that particular food truck.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. So she would advertise it in her newsletters. Okay. And then she had some signs made up that were posted around it. She posted it in the neighborhood Facebook group. She posted it in the neighborhood next door group. And so that's how she got the word out. And she put the food trucks in an area where it was very visible.
Do you have to have like any
Depends on your community. So the question was, do you need permits? Depends on the community. So I would check. Okay, so there's another potential event. Now look what you just did. You could, instead of doing one event, you could do 3 events, and then you could take away your directional promotional emails. Or you could just go to a 21 touch plan in your neighborhood instead of a 19.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this enough to get you all started? Yes.
Yeah.
Then you're going to build a plan for your open house attendees, because it's not going to be the same as your neighborhood. Right? So now what color fabrics are we going to put in our open house follow-up kit that's going to look different than our neighborhood quilt? One of you might be a quilter, right? So how does that look, right? We got 2 different activities going on. What do they look like? So next week when I am back, oh, I'm not here next week.
That's right.
I would like everyone to email me one of your 19 to Connect touch plans by Friday night. For those of you that don't already have my email, it's my name. It's margaretgade@kw.com. But I want to see your plans, right? Let me help you build these, right? But if I don't give you the homework assignment, most of you aren't going to do this. And this is such a critical piece to your business. Okay? All right. Whew. So, how do we make an impact? We want to focus on value, right? And I think sometimes we get in our own heads because we're so used to the car warranty people that we don't want to be them, right? I don't want to be the people knocking on my door when the hailstorm came through 2 hours ago and they want to put a new roof on my house, right? That's not who we want to be. And guess what? We aren't those people, because the difference is we're bringing value. So once you've generated a lead, however you've done it, and you've captured their information, you can talk to them, right? But the hard part is you don't know how much the communication they want and what their range is. But you want to make sure that you're communicating your value through your value proposition, right? And we did that back 2 weeks ago, right? We worked on our value propositions, right? You can use the company stats, you can use the personal stats, you can use the coaching team stats that you're a part of, whatever works, but you want to be able to put together what is your value. And the more you engage with people, the more you understand what they need and what they want. Okay, so don't always look at the who, but figure out and craft your message based on the source of the lead, right? So we talked about, I got a 19 touch plan for open houses. I got a 19 touch for farming. Maybe if you're doing circle prospecting or you're doing expireds, you have a different 19 touch plan for those. By the way, if you're working expireds or FSBOs, you got to do it faster and tighter, right? Those are the people I put into the 10 days of pain. Okay, but once you have it built, it's super easy. But you want to get the door open to the two-way conversation. And ultimately, when we're doing a two-way conversation, what are we going for? An appointment, right? Okay. All right. So here are some different potential lead sources. You could have people that call in. You could have when you call out, talking like those could be expireds, for sale by owners, circle prospecting, community events, past clients, open houses, leads that you purchase. Please don't do that as a new agent. Social media marketing, client referral, traditional marketing, sign calls, your agent website, and your blogs and newsletters. Okay. So what we want to be thinking about is, you know, where that source came from, what can we provide them of value? And it's going to be different. Right? A farm person is a farming community is going to be different than somebody who walked into an open house that wants to buy a house that's leases up in 4 months. Completely different paths, completely different communications. Okay. So The key is to make sure that you've got that plan. They've got some statements or questions on here as far as, you know, what we can do when we're making those calls out. Okay, so some basic questions, right? Because remember, our job as realtors is to be great what? Listeners. And in order to be a great listener, we have to ask good questions. So I never like a why question, but this one doesn't bother me. Why are you thinking about buying or selling? Right? In selling your home, what does that mean for you? Where will you go? Tell me more about that. Those of you that coach with me probably have heard that come out of my mouth at least once or twice. Tell me more about that. What will that do for you and your family? I think about the open house people that were there on Saturday with me, where it was the mom who wanted to buy my house to downsize so her kids could live in their big house, and they would literally be able to build a gate in the backyard that would go from house to house. What will that do for you? What will that mean for you? And for her, it meant that her 6 grandkids could run between her house and their house and not have to walk on the streets. It meant something to them. Okay, so great questions. We could write some of these, but I think we'll skip that. So what are some other questions that you think would be a great part of the lead follow-up conversation? Okay. Is it a full moon?
Well,
go ahead, Brandon.
I mean, you'd ask them what kind of neighborhood they're looking for, right? I mean, and Denver metro area has vastly different types of neighborhoods. If you're looking at downtown Denver versus a neighborhood like Capitol versus, you know, a subdivision in Broomfield or Arvada, those are vastly different, you know, types of neighborhoods, types of homes.
Right? Exactly. You just kind of got to start just asking all of those open-end questions. And on a lead follow-up, it's going to be different, right? I tend to go into those nitty-gritty details when I'm in front of them. Right? Oh, you need a ranch home because, right, you physically can no longer handle stairs. Okay. Would love to show you what different ones are available. When can we meet? Right? Because didn't we say a long time ago, the best conversation is face-to-face? So every conversation we're having, we want to get as quickly as we can face-to-face, because then we get to see their body language. We get to see their facial expressions. Right? We get to pick up on their energy. Right? There's a reason why I prefer all of the cameras on, because I can see you, right? It feels like we're more face-to-face than we are when all I see is your names. Does that make sense? Because if I turned off my camera, how good would that be? For some of you, you'd probably go like, please, right? But right, you feel those people and you get their energy even through the computer screens. Okay. All right. Talk to me about what we've done today. What are our ahas?
Well, I love the plan, the business planning basically, and how we can break it down into bite-sizable chunks. And it's pretty much, yeah, I can do this, but I do need time.
Right.
That's the key.
So where on your calendar is that planning time? So in our team, Tuesdays, believe it or not, is project day, except when Ignite's going on. But Tuesday and on my team calendar is project day. And what does that mean? We've got a lot of things we want to get done, but we never have time to get it done, right? Because our calendars are filled in other parts of the week. So what we decided is we blocked all day Tuesday, and that's when we work on projects. So right now we're working on a great big huge send out card campaign that'll get triggered starting January 1st. So we're literally working on designing the card, making sure the system has everybody's names in them correctly with the right addresses, so that they're in the right group, so that when we trigger it, it's ready to go. So for the next 2 or 3 weeks, that might be all we work on, or at least I do, right? Stacy, who's my right hand, for those of you that don't know her, we're getting ready to do our big, huge annual brunch, our annual holiday brunch, right? We usually have anywhere from 200 to 300 people at it. And so it's a big event, which is why we don't participate in the office one. But it's a big event, right? She's already working on creating the Eventbrites, figuring out the mailing lists, figuring out the decor, working with the caterers, right? You got a plan. So our Tuesdays are a lot of that. So maybe you dedicate not a whole day, but maybe you dedicate 2 hours a day, an hour a day, because you can get a lot done in an hour if you're focused. So maybe every day from 1 to 2. I'm trying to pick a time when you might not be in coaching, right? Wait, maybe you pick 1 to 2 right after lunch. And you go project time. And then you get super specific. Maybe tomorrow it's you are working on the 19 touch campaign for open house follow-ups. If you're going to do open houses, you better have a plan on how you're going to follow them up. Right? If you're going to do what we just designed, then what is my template for my newsletter? What community event am I going to do? What kind of planning ahead do I need to do the community event? If you're going to go down the food trucks, when are you going to do the food trucks? How are you going to communicate about the food trucks? Build out the plan, right? Those of you that come from a high-tech world, don't you remember project plans? Okay, some of you just had a flashback, okay, but they worked, right? We would build out the project plan and then you followed the project plan. That's known as your 411. Right? So when you take that, if I'm going to do a electronic recycling event, my first question is, when am I going to do it? And what do I have to do in preparation for that date? So you draw a line in the sand with a date. Now, again, take my words of advice, call the electronic recycling people and find out when they have availability before you set your date. Don't do it backwards. That was a big oops on our part last year. And we never got our shredding event off because of it. Right? So we weren't properly prepared. We will be better prepared in 2023. So who are the companies that do electronic recycling? I don't know. I guess I'll have to go to Dr. Google. Electronic recycling companies, Denver, Colorado. Do you do mobile electronic recycling? Not all of them do. What kind of lead time do you need? How's your calendar? How much do you charge? Then set your date and then figure out how you're going to communicate it to your audience. Okay. All right. What else? What other ahas do we have from today? Okay. All right. Post lead follow-up, right? So there is a post lead follow-up page in your participant guide. But once you have permission to have a two-way conversation with people, your lead then becomes a contact. Okay. And when they become a contact, they move from a 19 touch campaign to a 36 to convert. And in the middle of that is what we call cementing the relationship. Okay. When you do a cement the relationship, it is typically one super high value opportunity. It's a high value touch that solidifies the relationship you've just established and open the doors for future interaction. Who might be able to give me an example of a really great high touch one activity to cement a relationship? What would that look like?
Would there be something like a lunch or some sort?
A lunch, yeah, that can do it. How about a consultation? How about a buyer consultation? How about a seller consultation? Right? Depending, again, it depends on the type of lead it is, right? But if I can get in front of people, right? Maybe it's you have a gift for them because they're a first-time home buyer and you're going to use that new book called Your First Home. Are you guys familiar with that when I talk about it? Do you know what it is? No? Okay. Pause, please. Okay, let's see. Oh, wait, the camera's up here. I don't want to trip over the cords. This is the second edition of a book that was written by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. Okay, can you guys see this? Anybody?
Yes,
Yes.
I can see it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is a new book. They just released it. It's a rewrite of the original. It's so much better than the original. And what's really, really cool about it is that, remember I said it has lots of content? Well, these are a great giveaway for people who want to buy their first home. Okay. The table of contents talks about deciding to buy, finding your agent, securing financing, identifying your criteria, finding your home, making an offer, performing due diligence, closing, move in and protect your investment, and enjoy service for a lifetime. It's really well written. You can get them on Keller Inc. What we did is we went together with another team and bought a case of them and split the cost of the case. Because it was cheap. Huh?
I was about to ask that question. Did you buy your case through Office or how did you?
I bought my case through Keller Inc.
Got it.
www.kellerinc.com. But like I said, you know, there's 10 books. It was 160 after tax and shipping. Maybe that's not in your budget, but maybe you only want a couple of these books. So maybe 2 or 3 of you go together and buy a case and divide up the cost. Okay, but great, 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 great book. So maybe you're offering this, right? Maybe your giveaway is for all first-time home buyers, right? Come to my home buying seminar and get a free copy of Your First Home. Okay, maybe that's your event, depending on who your target audience is. I gotta be careful. This is Amanda and Nikki, so I don't want to mess it up. Okay. Okay, so get that one to cement. Once you cement that relationship, why did it do that? Hold on a minute. Okay, once you do that, then you move it into a 36 to convert campaign, which, hold on, I thought we covered one of these, but we don't. So you can kind of see it in gray because I want to talk about it. So once they become a contact, the people that you're putting into Command today who are in your phone, they're in your Facebook, they're in your LinkedIn, they're people that you have a relationship with already. Those are your contacts, right? So your plan with your contacts in 36 to convert is very similar. Now, this one does 36 touches. For those of you that have been in our office, or if you went up to the Rocky Mountain Summit, you heard Brittany Heckenberg talk about a 70 touches, where she touches her contact database 70 times a year. Now, some of you just went, that's talking to them more than once a week. Margaret, they're going to think I'm a horrible person. No, they're not, because you combine it in different ways. So again, 36 to convert, the 4 touches, the DTD2, critical piece to that. Once a quarter, you're picking up the phone. It's the Adele script. Hello, how are you? That's all it is. Hello, how are you? It's the invitations to coffee. It's the invitations to lunch, right? It's with your people. What would your world look like if you took your A&Ws from this week and you got 2 coffee appointments every week out of whatever letter that was? How different would that be in your relationship building? Back in my telecom days, one of the guys I worked with, his wife was a realtor, very successful realtor down in Highlands Ranch. And so I was talking to him one day and he goes, man, I don't know. My wife and her real estate business, I'm not sure what she does, but all I know is she spends a lot of money having coffee. Because she literally had 4 coffee appointments a day, 6 days a week. How many coffee appointments can you get in a day? A lot, right? Now, I don't drink coffee, so that would be a horrible experience for me, right? However, I'll go to a coffee shop and I'll drink something other than coffee. But if you had what Matt Harper tells all the time, that his goal as a new agent was to have a lunch once a week with somebody he hadn't seen for a while. So over 52 weeks, he went to lunch 52 times with 52 different people. And his business took off. So for those of you that are social, like to have coffee, like to go to lunch, like to go to happy hour, what does that look like? And you're reaching out to the context that you have. How caliber of touch are those? Just throwing it out there. 26 touches, bi-weekly emails offering some type of information of value. So every other week, they're getting an email from you. Well, the monthly neighborhood nurture could be one of them, because you already know their neighborhood that they live in. And I will tell you, people like them. And the beauty of it is you can see when they start looking at homes in command. It's fascinating what some of my friends are looking at lately. I think I need to have coffee with them. All right. Then you do 2 touches of events, get-togethers, or parties. We do a holiday with Santa, right? We do a holiday brunch. I don't have a lot of sphere with little kids, so I don't call it breakfast with Santa. So we do it a holiday brunch and we just have a special guest from the North Pole. Okay. Maybe you do for your friends, maybe you do a movie night. I'm not a big fan of renting out a movie theater. And here's why. If I rent out the movie theater, Top Gun. How many of you went to Top Gun? Okay, how many times? I want to hear this. I want everyone to tell me how many times you went to the new Top Gun movie. Mark.
I don't do Tom Cruise movies.
Okay, so 0. Becky put up 1 finger. Sandy, how many times did you go see the new one?
I've gone twice already and I'm planning a 3rd.
Oh, let's go together. Diane. 0, you and Mark. Okay, Brandon, how many times did you go see Top Gun?
Also 0.
We actually had an event for our clients, like it was the 2nd week of opening, of Top Gun opening, and we had like over 50 people show up, and it was like their first experience out of COVID, like going to a movie theater. So it was actually a really great thing to do, and like we just did it as our client appreciation.
Love that, Taylor. So for those of you that don't know, Taylor and her dad are a team, and so they are doing some of those types of things. Taylor Vanderock, how many times have you seen Tom Cruise's new Top Gun?
I've seen it twice and I would see it more.
And you'll see it more. Jeff?
0.
Wow. Liz? 0. Wow. Boy, I picked the wrong movie for this crowd, but I'm with Sandy and Taylor. I've seen it twice, and I got to tell you, I would go back again. I saw it premiere night, and I saw it 3 days later. It's an amazing movie. Anyway, here's the thing with movies. Okay, so you invite people to come to this movie, and you're going to pay for their ticket, you're going to pay for their popcorn, and you're going to pay for their soda. Okay, so it's not going to be cheap, especially if you're getting a first run movie like Top Gun. Okay. So people come in, and how early, Taylor, how early in advance of the movie did people start showing up?
So the hard thing about that event was like we had to actually set it up as an event and rent out the movie theater. So they literally give you maybe like 20 to 30 minutes. I think it's like 15 to 20 minutes before the movie starts that it's open. So you basically have, like, if people are running late, all that stuff. I mean, I feel like a lot of people run late, and like we had probably 10 people running late. So like we had asked them to like push the time back by like 15 minutes. And so thankfully with our event that they were able to do that, but some events they're not. And so we had about 20 to 25 minutes before the movie started for people to like get in, get their popcorn, all that stuff. And then also, like, if you do an event with the AMC per se, you have to like go through this huge process of like dealing with corporate versus the actual theater to plan the event. And so like you said, like you're probably buying the movie ticket, popcorn and a drink for these people. So corporate and the movie theater told us to buy these like vouchers that you get through AMC corporate for popcorn and a drink. So we bought 50 of each because that's how many people were coming, spent the money in them, all that stuff. And then people started going to the counter to redeem them. And the people were like, oh yeah, these don't work. They're expired. They sent us expired coupons knowing our event was that day. So then we had to go through all of that to get that fixed. And it was a huge thing. But I mean, I've heard for other people who've done it, it's been a huge success. That was our first time doing it. And two, it was a huge event because all these people, literally every person was like, will be our first movie, like out of the pandemic. Like this is such a big thing. And like all that stuff. So it was like, we had to do damage control quick because people were like, this is our first time out of the pandemic going to a movie.
Yes. But so here's the thing that I picked up on. So Taylor's team had 50 people come to this event, and they had how much time before the movie started? 15 to 20 minutes. Can you really get around to 50 people in 15 to 20 minutes and have any kind of good connection with them? That's not even 50 in 20 minutes means you get 30 seconds with each person.
And thank God, like for us, there was like 3 of us because we did an event with my mom. So it was me, my mom, and my dad because she's our preferred lender. So thank God there was 3 of us. And like we had maybe like even at that point, like a minute or 2 with each person. Because like we were also trying to give them a goodie bag and hand out their tickets and show them the process and do all this stuff. So it's like, if you plan a huge event like that, you've really got to figure out a concise time, like Margaret's saying, to be like, let's like sit and talk for maybe, 2 to 3 minutes a person. That way you can like make that connection with people. But the good thing about that event was it caused a lot of people to come back to us after it and go, that was so great, even though there was the whole thing with the movie theater, like that was not your guys' fault at all. Like we appreciate it. Like I got thank you cards, all kinds of stuff. And even after the movie, we went so far as to give people, I think it was like a $15 Smashburger gift card. We mailed one out to everybody because people were having to pay for their popcorn and drink, some of the people that we invited. So we went as far as to just mail everybody a Smashburger gift card because we felt bad because of the discrepancy.
Yep.
And everyone was like, you didn't have to do that and all this stuff. They were just like, we were just grateful that like we got to go see a movie for free. And like, that was such a great movie to go see.
Right. A very popular one. So, but here's my point, right? You have a very small window to connect with people before the movie starts. So they come in, they grab their popcorn, they grab their drink, and they go sit in the dark theater. And then they watch the movie for however long it is. And then after the movie, what do they all do?
Leave.
So it's high dollar, low impact at the physical event. Now, what Taylor's sharing is that it comes down to your follow-up after the fact, right? And so just be aware, that's personally not my favorite one, right? Because I want to talk to people, right? And if you only give me 15 minutes to talk to 50 people, it's going to be just a horrible event for me, right? I like the longer term ones. But again, figure out what works for you. Now, for many of you who are individuals new to the business, you're going, I can't afford that. Team up with 2 or 3 other agents. Your people don't know that it's not all just you. They don't know. Team up with a lender, right? Rent a water park. Pirates Cove down in Littleton is pretty inexpensive. So rent out the entire pool for the entire day and invite your entire contacts, not your leads, your contacts. So you have to have them tagged correctly in command to get them to work. Okay. And then 4 touches, promotional direct mail, magnets, calendars, market reports, schedules, the same things that we talked about before. Some of the other touches that a lot of us build into our contacts, and even within our contact list, we have different levels within that, right? I have my VIPs. My VIPs are people that have bought, sold, or referred at least 2 pieces of business to me sometime in my career. They get more than somebody who I know I used to work with, but I know them, I'm connected to them, but they're not a VIP. Okay. They're not doing business with me. My VIPs get pop buys, right? A pop buy can be, you know, many of you heard about Brittany Heckenberg. She wraps up the Christmas wrapping paper with a bag of bows and some Scotch tape and drops it off to her VIPs. The first year that we couldn't do our holiday brunch because of COVID, and I wasn't having Santa wearing a mask and kids standing 10 feet away from him, we did pumpkin pies, and we literally delivered pumpkin pies the Saturday and Sunday before Thanksgiving to people's homes. Okay, so you can build those kinds of things. Again, Diane, it's about building the quilt, right? These kind of people, what do I want to do with them? Here's my best practice tip for you. Take a day, take it 2 days, sometime in the next 60 days. And go to a quiet place. Some people have literally rented a hotel room, stayed overnight in the hotel, had room service, and planned out their next year. And said, okay, this morning I'm going to work on what's my touch plan? What is my plan for my contacts? And they build out their contact plan and they put it on a calendar. So we buy, have you guys ever seen those ones that are white erase and it's got all 12 months of the year up on one big piece of paper? If you come from the tech world, you probably had them hanging in your offices. Okay. I brought that with me to real estate. Okay. And we block in our vacations and we say, okay, when is our holiday brunch going to be? I can already tell you the date in 2023 of our holiday brunch, not 2022, 2023. It's the first Saturday in December. Okay. And then we lay out, okay, what's our pop buy plan? How are we going to do that? And then we took our database and split it into quadrants. So take a day, take 2 days, have all your stuff together so you can plan and lay it all out on a big old table and say, okay, for my contacts, what am I going to do next year? I'm going to do my 4 phone calls. I'm going to do my DTD2 to make sure that's implemented. What do I need to do? I need to tag everybody with the alphabet groupings. Okay, get that. When are you going to do that? Okay, what emails am I going to send? What events am I going to do? What pop buys am I going to do, right? It will help you, but I can't build your plan for you because I don't have your budgets. I could give you my plan and you don't have my budget. And my budget's not very big. Huh?
Could we just have your budget?
You can have my budget, but you're going to have to fund it.
Oh, okay. Well,
I spend about $1,000 a month. If you just look at the annual piece, right? But again, I'm in a different place. Our very first breakfast with Santa, I will tell you what we did. I teamed up with 2 other agents and my lender. And we split the cost 4 ways. And we home cooked the food, right? So our only expense was the venue. Our venue was a gymnasium in a senior community in Wheat Ridge. It was not the fanciest place in town, let me tell you. Okay, but it was inexpensive. We had to do our own cleanup. I got my kids, my daughter and her friends to come be waiters and waitresses. And so they all had to wear a white shirt and black jeans, right? I had two of my best friends there helping keep the kids in line so we could network with the kids. And then I hired a student photographer out of Ralston Valley High School, and I paid him $100 to take pictures. I did it on the cheap. And you know what? People loved it. And I divided the cost between 3 other people. So it was super inexpensive.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I get it. How much? I hear people mention lenders a lot.
Yep.
How much of lender support would you say, like in a percentage, not on a dollar amount, but a percentage of your marketing and such is your vendor or is your lender piece? How heavy do you depend on those? Or can you?
Well, so this has happened, it's evolved over years.
Okay.
Right. So one year I had 5 different vendors contribute, and they all contributed at whatever level they felt was appropriate.
Yeah.
Right. And then they all came to the event and networked. My lender partner historically chips in more. And he's at the event, and between him and I, we usually will find 1 to 2 pieces of business for the both of us coming out of that.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily say to the vendor, well, do you want to pay half or do you want to pay 50%? Like the first year we did, we just broke it evenly because we didn't know what we were doing. Yeah. Right. And so the second year, I just went to that same lender and I said, okay, we're doing it again. You know, how do you want to play? And he says, well, how about if I just pay for Santa? Okay. All right. So it totally depends on them. It totally depends on their budget. Probably has some level of dependency of how much business you send them.
Yeah.
But if you have enough vendors, think about it, you got inspectors, you've got roofers, you've got lenders, you've got insurance people, you know, look at your vendor pool of who you refer business to on any kind of regular basis, right? Mm-hmm. If you do it right, they could pay for 100% of it.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no magic formula. Taylor Bondrock, you had your hand up.
Yes, I was just going to say kind of what you were saying too. They're normally super available, and like that's never, like they will always bring that up before I would even bring it up when I've just been talking about like future events or anything like that. So they're like super accommodating on that front. And then a lot of the lenders that I've been meeting with, I would recommend that people go and meet with some if you haven't been, because a lot of them are doing like an implementation throughout companies that there's a preferred lender and a preferred realtor, which they are finding like tons of leads on. So I would just go out and connect with some lenders because a lot of them are doing that right now and seeing some good results from it.
You want to have a good 2 to 3 lenders.
Yeah.
Right. I don't go much beyond that because I also believe that in the long term, it's about the loyalty and the long-term relationship that you have with those partners. That's why they're called partners, right? But they don't all have the same programs, right? And so, yes, having those, some of them, depending on where they are in the business, some of them will help with you in the supporting of buying leads. Some of them will pay for your home bot. Some of them will come work open houses with you. Some of them you will write a check and show up at your events with you. But if you're going to have them at your events, make sure that you don't have more than one lender sponsoring an event, because that would be embarrassing. So if lender A is helping you put on your movie day, don't have lender B there too. Does that make sense? You wouldn't want to show up and help sponsor the lender's event and have another realtor there. Okay. All right. This is going to be interesting because you guys are so quiet today. All right. So we pretty much wrapped up the learning piece of today. Okay. So let me ask you this. So what is a lead follow-up? What is lead follow-up? If you were going to define it, what would you describe it as?
What you do following meeting a potential lead.
Mm-hmm. What's your plan, right?
And I would add to that based on the context upon which you know the leads. Like if they're an open house, you ask about what they said they're in, you know, what they were interested in at the open house or what they weren't interested in.
Yep,
you know,
absolutely.
Else you have to make sure you know who you're talking to.
Yep. Yeah. And how do you do lead follow-up? I think the answer is it depends, right? Depends on what kind of lead it is and getting to know them, right? So your call to action, okay? And you're all going to email this to me at margaretgate@kw.com. I want you to finish planning out your lead follow-up 19 to connect plan. Okay. And let me know, is this an open house lead? Is this a neighborhood farming lead? Like what is your 19 to connect plan? What does the basic outline look like? And then you're going to schedule your calendar to do those activities. And then preparing that cement item of value. So next week, we're going to start diving into the listing presentations, the buyer consultations, and those types of things. I think those are a very strong cementing item. Okay, so don't miss next week because those are going to be pretty in-depth. All right, we're getting into the meat of Ignite, which I love. It's the fun stuff, right? And oh, by the way, pick one and do it first and then do the second one. So if, as you've been talking to your sphere and talking to people and out there working open houses and lead generating what you've been doing, if primarily it seems like your people are headed towards the buyer side of the house, then work on your buyer consultation first. Come to the listing and learn, but focus on getting the buyer one done first and then worry about the listing one. If you're the opposite and you have people in your sphere that are a bunch of investors and they're getting ready to sell their houses because they're not sure what the market's going to do, maybe you work on the listing part first and then work on the buyer. Okay. I don't want any of you to get overwhelmed with, oh my God, I got to get it all done in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day and neither is a real estate business. Okay. Which is why Ignite is a repeatable program. Okay. Yeah. So talk to me about what you're feeling. What are your ahas from today? There's what? There's a lot of things we could do that we didn't realize. And a lot of it we can build into a system and then it just goes into autopilot. Okay, true story, you guys. So before Command, there was this program called eEdge. It's what we had. It was archaic, but it did what it needed to do. And so I set up every single person that was in my eEdge database on this email campaign, and it goes out once a month, and it's just a monthly like newsletter. The content's pre-built for me. I could edit it if I want to. Well, I have not done the best job of getting all my information out of eEdge into Command. That's on me. I own that. However, guess what's still been running?
All those plans.
All of those emails have still been running. We switched to Command 3 years ago, and those are still going out, and I have done nothing to touch them since the day that I triggered everybody to go into them. And every once in a while, I get emails from my good friend Rosie, and she'll go, this article was really good, Margaret, nicely written. I go, you're welcome, glad you liked it. And then I go read it to see what I wrote because I have no idea, right? That's building leverage into your business so that things automatically happen and you're done. Now, did it take me a while to get my database set up so I could get them all in there? Of course it did. But was it worth it?
Mm-hmm.
For 7 years, those emails have been going out and people are still reading them. Hugely, huge. Okay, just pray Charles never hears that, because if he knows I still have e-edge running, he's going to make fun of me. Okay, so what I want you guys to think about, and those of you that are willing to share, some of you are, some of you aren't, but I want you to think about, this is session 10 out of 20. We're at the halfway point. Today, at the end of today, we are halfway through Ignite. Okay, I'm super stoked about that because you're all still here. Okay, so what I want to know is, and you can answer one or all of these questions as you think about this, but how has your thinking changed in the last 10 sessions? What ideas or mindsets are new for you? What do you feel differently about? What was meaningful to you today? Let me ask you this. What behaviors are you going to do that are going to be different going forward? What actions are you taking? And what tools, models, or systems will you begin using? And how will those make you accountable? That's a lot of questions. Pick one and go. Somebody.
What tools and models and systems will you use? I'm going to go back to my calendar and truly try to learn how to time block.
Okay.
And I'm going to take my pages and pages of scribbles and try to put them into a 19 touch and schedule them.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to change your wording. Okay. So on your second sentence, it's, I'm going to take today's information and build a 19 touch plan.
Mm-hmm.
Not try.
Oh, yes.
I am going to take the ideas from today and build my 19 touch plan for what? Open houses, farming, which one?
Farming.
Okay. So I am going to build my 19 touch plan. Okay, I love that. All right. Anybody else?
So I'm going to start implementing this before I get my 19 touch plan, because that's going to take some time to do. I'm going to start implementing pieces of it. So I'm going to meet with my, the title, Sam from Land Title, and we're going to actually, we meet today. I'm going to go get a list from her and start about some cards, and I'm going to start sending those out, probably walk the neighborhood.
Love it. Right. So I'm scheduling an appointment, if I don't already have one, with my title person to figure out how they can help me implement what products do they have, right? If you don't even know what they have, how can you know what to leverage? Right. So what products does the title have? Right. And then from there, how do you want to use that to build it into your 19 touch or your 36 touch plans? And some of them are the same. Right. Our farming cards are the same cards that go out to our sphere most of the time. Love it. Okay. Anybody else? All right. I want to talk about time blocking. It's not in the Ignite. But what I heard was we need help there. Okay. So I want to talk about it. First of all, it's an art, not a science. And it's constantly always evolving. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So when you are time blocking, you can do it for a year, you can do it for a quarter, you can do it for a month, or a combination of both. So the first thing I do when I'm time blocking is I take my calendar, and it can be a paper calendar, it can be my electronic calendar, or both. And I say, okay, what days am I not going to work? Okay, so that's going to sound weird. I'm putting in my calendar when I'm not going to work. So as an example, I don't work Christmas Day and I don't work Christmas Eve. So I'm going to put a big old X through them if I'm doing a paper copy, or I'm going to block them on my calendar. I don't typically work Sunday mornings. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to block every Sunday morning. That's family time, that's faith time, that's whatever it is. Oh, I have a vacation planned. My family and I are going here in July, so I'm going to block that time now. Oh, I have date night with my husband or my significant other or my children. And we go out to dinner every Friday night. So every Friday night from 5 o'clock and on, I'm blocking that time and I'm going to call it date night. Maybe you participate in a bowling league. Maybe you participate in a tennis league or a pickleball league. And in some levels, that's your lead generation, but it's also your time. And that league happens every Thursday night at 7:30 till 11, or every Tuesday afternoon from 1 to 3. Go block that time. So the first and most important time to block is what?
The time you're not going to be working. Is
me
what?
time.
Yeah.
Me time. Me time. If you're going to take off the week of Thanksgiving and go home and see your family, then block it now. That's why we get those great big 12-month planning calendars, so that we can see it visually what it looks like. Okay. That's the first thing you block. The second thing you block, now I'm probably going to go down. So in my world, I always block family reunion because I always go to family reunion every year. So I'm going to put that on the calendar when I'm going to go travel for educational events that I already know about. So I already know family reunion is February 19th through the 21st. So I'm going to block the 18th through the 22nd. I already know that, bless you, there's an event in June in Michigan that I'm going to go to for a week. I've already got it blocked on my calendar for 2023. So educational pieces that you're going to go to. If you don't know them a year in advance, that's okay. Now what I'm going to do in that day or 2 days of escaping and just think planning, right? The biggest thing that business people don't do is we don't plan. We just react, right? We just go do it.
That is
my next
exactly
step,
it.
Yep. So my next week is that my next step is on a separate piece of paper or like a whiteboard behind me. We did this in July because we were really off base on our team. And so we drafted out our perfect week. And what we meant by our perfect week was, where was our non-negotiables every week? And then we started to build our calendar around it. So in my example, Monday mornings, non-negotiable, I am coaching from 10 to 12, right? Non-negotiable. Unless I'm on vacation, that's where I am. Thursdays is one-on-one by Zooms, non-negotiable from these types of windows, right? So I started putting in our non-negotiables. Stacy put in her own. So what are your non-negotiables? I hope attending your group coaching, right, is a non-negotiable, and it's every Monday at either 10 to 11 or 11 to 12, depending on which group you're in. If you're in my group, I don't know Jody's dates. So you guys up in them foothills got to do your own, right? But what are those non-negotiables, and make them non-negotiable? You're always there. Okay. And so then you start looking at your week. So then we said, okay, Tuesday is going to be project day, but we needed some lead gen time. So Tuesday mornings is typically our lead gen time. And then Tuesday afternoons, we do projects. On Mondays and Fridays, I have client communication hour. We usually have either buyers or sellers that we have under contract or that we're working with. I need to be talking to them on a weekly basis, at least once a week. And that's becoming more important in this market that we're going into. So I have dedicated time in my weekly calendar, my perfect week. It's called client communication. When is your lead gen times? What are you going to do? Maybe you have follow-up Wednesday. Maybe you're going to do that from 1 to 3 on Wednesdays. Block it in your calendar, but do it only for the quarter, right? Because then you can adjust it and adapt it as you need to. If you get into this and you go, well, that didn't work so well, you got to try it more than 1 week before you can say it does or doesn't work. Okay, so you got your lead generation, and then you build in your time, Diane, to build your quilt, right? So then you get into the weekly planning and you say, okay, this week, my focus item is I got to get my 19 touch plan done, right? Everybody on this call, your action this week is to get your 19 touch done by Friday. It's only Tuesday, so you have plenty of time. Most of you could probably get it done this afternoon if you don't have anything else to do. Probably about an hour. So when in your calendar this week are you going to build your plan? And then once your plan is built, okay, next week I need to call the electronic recycling people. When next week are you going to do that? And put that time in your calendar. The most important things on your calendar as an outline is personal time, and then your 20%. Lead gen, lead follow-up, script and role play. And I'm going to throw education instead of negotiation because you got to have some education time, and attending closings. So where are those windows? And if you don't have anything to negotiate, then what are you filling it in with? Education. Maybe you don't have any closings yet. Okay, so closing times, maybe I'm going to work on a project. And then leave yourself white space to give you room to jiggle things around. So you've got your quarterly outline. Then every Sunday on my calendar, I have an hour where I just sit down and look at what does next week look like? What do I have to get done next week, and where can I put it on my calendar? Where do I have white space that's in my that's not already planned that I can put that in? Okay. That's kind of like a good basic outline for time blocking. Questions on it? Or for those of you that have done something like that, I'd love to hear your best practices.
I think I just have to do it. It's something even when I was in tech, I didn't care for that method because my calendar was my calendar for appointments and meetings. It wasn't time blocking. And I'm beginning to see or understand that this type of business requires it, or at least it does for me. Because if not, you will get pulled off track, pulled off of focus, very, very simply, because there's just so much.
You get squirreled, right?
Yeah.
You get squirreled, right? It's so easy to pick up the phone and you get sucked into Facebook, and 2 hours later and your time is gone.
Yeah.
Right. And I think Brandon and I can both equate to it when coming out of the high tech world, our calendar was never ours.
No.
Right. The calendar was when somebody else was demanding our time. And even if we tried to block it, they didn't care.
Right.
Right. So I hear you, because I had the same struggle. I didn't want to be ruled by a calendar because that was when other people were telling me what to do, and it didn't allow me to do what I needed to do.
Yeah.
So part of that is a mind shift out of the industries that the three of us come out of.
Yeah.
So for those of you that haven't figured it out, Diane and Brandon and I all come out of high tech, which is a very different culture than you see in a lot of other industries. And it has a lot of ugh, to be really honest. So,
yeah,
but there's different industries that all have that. But for me, it's about thinking about my calendar as a date with myself and a date with my business.
Yeah.
Right. And I like dates. Dates are usually fun. Right. Typically a date means I'm having a good time. Right. So I'm making a date with myself to do something for me. right? And that time for me could be, I develop my 19 plan. My date with me could be, I reach out to my sphere and reconnect with people that I have some kind of relationship with, right? And so the key is to have those priorities done. So my other question is, I know one of you does because you sent it to me. How many of you have a million things swirling in your head right now and you don't know where to start? Liz is sitting in here shaking her head up and down, right? And Taylor's raising her hand, right? And I'm seeing smiles. I've got Brandon, he's got that grin on his face going, yeah, I hear you, Margaret. I know exactly what you're talking about, right? We were all swirling. So let me help you with the swirl. Because what happens in our brains is we have so many things swirling that says, oh my God, I got to get this done. 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 And what do? You freeze and you do nothing.
Yeah.
So what I want you to do is and not to right now, but a way to help you with that is you take out a clean sheet of paper and brain dump. And it can be brain dump everything to 19 plan, 36 touch plan, clean the litter box, empty the dishwasher, get the kids to school, book this vacation, figure out when we're going to go here. I got to do some lead gen. I got to schedule an open house. Like just dump it all. Just dump it out of your head. And I know the day that my coach did that because I walked into, I meet with Michelle once a week, $1,000 a month, best $1,000 I spend. Okay. And she said to me, what's wrong? And I said, I have so much in my head. I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to start. So she did that with me, except she made me verbally do it.
Oh.
And she was writing it down. Okay. By the way, I probably just gave you my list, including the litter box, right? I'm sure you all laughed at that, but that is actually on my brain of something that needs to get done today. Okay. So I got all this long list, right? So I'm spewing it out of my head and she's writing it down. And when she got to the point where she kept saying, anything else? Anything else? And when I stopped giving her an answer to anything else, is when she took the list that she typed on her computer and she shared her screen. And she said, first, she said, so how do you feel now after I got done and I didn't have anything else? I was like, oh, my shoulders didn't feel as tight. Because I took it from my head and I put it to something and it became a list. Okay. How many of you have ever gone on vacation? Oh, come on. Every single hand should go up. Jeff Gorman goes to the motorcycle thing in South Dakota every year. Okay. We all go on vacation. And what happens when you're getting ready to go on vacation? What do? Pretend you're going on a 3-week trip to Europe. What is the first thing we're going to do right now?
It's the checklist.
You're going to make a list of everything you need to do before you got to go, right? And isn't it amazing when you go on vacation, how you get it all done?
Amazingly.
Okay? Amazingly, right? All those projects from work got caught up. Like the house looks immaculate because at my house, all the laundry, the house has to look like no one's ever lived in it before I'll walk out the door. Okay. Never looks like that any other time. Okay. We just do the same thing with a brain dump. You dump all of those swirling activities out of your head and you put them on a piece of paper and they just became a list. Yeah. Now you take that sheet of paper and you look at them and you go, okay, when I look at this list, what can I delegate to somebody else? The litter box just went to Tom. Okay, it's his lucky day. Okay, he can help me with that. Okay. Oh, the dishwasher needs to be emptied. Andy can take care of that. So it goes off my list. Then I say, what is the most important thing on this list that's going to have the highest impact to me or my business? Maybe you're going to have a buyer consultation in 2 weeks. Well, maybe that should be one of your top items. Maybe it's, I've been working a ton of open houses and I don't have a solid 19 touch follow-up plan to open houses. That's the most important thing I can do today. Put that at the top of the list. What's the second most important thing? The third most important thing, the fourth most important thing, the fifth most important thing. Take the top 5, right? Top 20%. Take the top 5. You get rid of what you can delegate, and the rest of it just doesn't matter. Then you take that top 5, you say, okay, here we go. 19 touch program, and I'm not moving to the second thing until I have at least the framework 95% done. Because maybe you need to figure out how to call the recycling place. All of a sudden, that 19 touch plan is done. What happened to that brick that was on your shoulder? Ping, it's gone, never to return again. Then you have the second thing. Maybe it's your listing presentation book, right? Maybe it's that pre-listing package. You got to get that done because you know you got some people who want to sell their houses. Then go work on it and make that the most important thing until it's done. And then that brick went ping off the other shoulder. What do you guys think of that plan? Sandy, what do you think? I can see you writing over there and I can see your brain going.
I like it. I have a lot to get going.
Yep.
So to speak.
Definitely. Okay. All right. Mark, what do you think about that kind of a start with your calendar and your planning?
Well, I just jotted down a brain dump. And you're absolutely right. It does feel a little bit of a relief. You have it on paper instead of just swirling in your mind. So yeah, I think it is beneficial.
Love it. I will tell you, it works for me. And to this day, every once in a while, Michelle will look at me and we meet on Zoom, right? She's in Albuquerque, I'm in Denver. And she'll look at me and she'll go, do we need to do a brain dump? Right? Some of you, I've given that to your assignment and you've sent them to me. Okay, it's a start. It's a start. All right. How are we feeling today? That was kind of a off-topic way we went. Not that that's bad.
I mean,
right.
it's our class, right? So what we need to discuss, we discuss, right?
Pretty much, to a degree. Uh-oh, my computer's wigging out. Hold on, did I lose you all? Nope, there you are. Okay, I need to find my, oh, I forget. You guys aren't right on top of me because I'm on the big camera. All right, so we're gonna spend a little bit of time working on some conversations today. So let me ask this important question first. How are you doing with your conversations? Are you doing your script practicing? Are you practicing with your friends?
We haven't been as good as we should have been, only because, and I think it's more me because I'm so scattered. So, yeah.
So is that a non-negotiable that needs to go on our calendars?
I thought I had.
And do we need to change accountability partners because they're not holding you accountable when you say, I can't do it today? She didn't like that question. Did y'all see her face?
Boy,
like,
oh boy, that's man. Right? Oh man.
So I don't know who your partner is. And that's okay. You don't have to share, but I'm willing to bet that Brandon would be saying, you know what, Diane, if you can't do it at 9 o'clock this tomorrow morning, then how's noon?
Would right? Brandon really do that?
Because Brandon says, I need the practice and I'm not going to let you hold me back. Right. Oh, so you're going to have to help each other. Right. That's the key to this. Right. Is we all, some of us would not go to the gym if somebody else wasn't there waiting for us.
That is very true.
Right. So this is the same way. Okay. So this I'm about to find out something. So what conversations did you guys work on last week after I left you? Like, what did you work on Wednesday with Sally and on Thursday with, I think Tracy was here.
Come on, somebody else jump in here. I'm tired of being the chatty Cathy.
Did we work on them? It's okay if the answer is no. I just want to know.
All right, no, we didn't work on them.
Okay, there we go. I'll fix that problem. Okay, so we are going to, so you guys get a vote here. All right, so let me get to the table of contents. I think we should do lead follow-up once. What do you guys think? Do you think we should be doing a lead follow-up practice script?
Yes, I think we should do the lead follow-up.
Awesome. All right. Inventory conversation starter. I'm finding it. So for those of you that have your participation or your participant guide and you go into that, I'm looking. Door knocking conversation, new listing, social media.
C12 and C13. Lead follow-up conversations.
Oh, follow-up out. I love this. Follow-up after an open house.
Yeah.
I think that one sounds good. Yeah, we're going to do these. Okay. So I'm going to screen share. We'll see if I can get it right this time. Here we go. Let's see what happens. The screen should give me this. All right. Can you see it?
Yep.
Woo. Thank goodness something works right. Okay. So how do we do affirmations?
We stand up.
Okay. Yeah, first we do. And today's affirmation, I gotta find it. It's a good one. I just didn't have it ready. So bear with me. Shake it out. Get all the stuff out because we've been sitting for 3 hours. Okay. I don't have it up. It's called, I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution. Okay. It's not on the screen. So I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution. Got it?
Got it.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution. And again, yeah, there's an and to it. I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution. And then here's the second half. And people are happy to be in relationship with me. And people are happy to be in relationship with me. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. And people are happy to be in relationship with me. Right? So I engage every conversation in the spirit of contribution, and people are happy to be in relationship with me. Do y'all believe it?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. All right. I am going to break you guys into groups because I feel like sometimes we do better there. So after the open house, so you held an open house this weekend and you call them up and they answer the phone and you says, hello, I'm your name with, now you probably don't have a team name, so just go to your market center. Hello, I'm your name with Keller Williams. We met earlier today, or we met earlier this weekend at the open house. That's a horrible script. We met earlier today at the open house, are interested in, we changed that when we were practicing. We have to because it doesn't make sense.
Oh my gosh.
We met earlier today at the open house. Are you interested in buying a home, selling your current home, or both? So I think they forgot the word are. Now, hopefully you learned that at the open house. But in case you didn't, I have great tools to help you find a home or a buyer from your home that I would love to share. So if their response is they're selling, you're going to say, I have tools to help you find a buyer for your home. If they're buying, I have great tools to help you find a home that I would love to share. We could get together tomorrow around 4 p.m. or 2 p.m. Wednesday. Which time works better for you? We can meet at my office or go from there. Okay? Now you'll notice that it gives you tips, right? To gather information at the open house, right? Best of luck at the playoffs. Go Eagles. Thanks for taking your time on a Saturday. Hope the baby got a nap. Like this is where those notes happen. So let's do this first one. And we're going to assume that their answer is they're looking to buy a home. Okay. So we're going to do it all together. And then I'm going to break you up into groups. Hello. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hello. I'm Margaret with Keller Williams. We met earlier this weekend at the open house. Are you interested in buying a home, selling your current home, or both? I don't hear you guys. I have great tools to help you find a buyer for your home that I would love to share. Okay, we could get together tomorrow around 4 or Wednesday at 2.
Which time works better for you?
Better for you. We can meet at my office.
Meet at my office and go from there. Okay. All right, let's do this second one because I want you guys to practice both of them. Okay. So you set up a search. Okay. And it says, over the last week, I have sent you 5 listings. I am just calling to update my files and see if you are still in the market to buy a home. If you've already purchased a home, or if not, to review the 5 homes I sent you. I hate that one. Never mind. All right, let's just go back to this one. Hey, I'm really honest when it comes to these things. So, all right, I'm going to throw you guys into breakout rooms, turn on your cameras, work with each other, and let's have some fun. Okay. So, come here. Oh, that's fine. Oh, this is where I find out how many people ran away from home. I'm not joking. Oh, let's do this different. When I do them manually, it takes a little bit. Okay. All right. We'll see you in like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. There they all go. I'm going to turn off the recording.